Gertner House. Eva says SHHHH. It's alright. Option 1 of 2 good morning. What happened? Option 2 of 2, Eva says no, a little crying won't hurt her. Besides, I think we've gotten almost all the leaks now. Clara says Ursula is my first child and she's been a handful, but I think I have the hang of it now. Big Yurt has been a godsend. He helped Christine with Eva when she was a baby. I never took you for a family man, Andreas. Option 1 of 2 I'm not. Not yet. I just wanted to be helpful. Option 2 of 2 I have 2 older brothers, both married, so there are plenty of nieces and nephews. Clara says I appreciate the offer. You will make a fine husband someday, Andreas. Eva says ugh. When will this storm let up? It's been going all morning. Clara says Peter and Jörg are outside, trying to deal with the flooding as best they can. Option 1 of 2 oh my. Is the farm in danger? Eva says there's always a danger with this much rain, but we've lived through worse. Whatever happens, it will be as God wills it. We must have faith in Providence and endure what is to come. Oh, I have some food for you. Eva says here. Sorry I couldn't prepare anything more. Option 1 of 2 thank you. Otto wanted me to say hello, by the way. Option 2 of 2 thank you. Player says didn't Otto ask me to say hello? He's probably courting her. Option 1 of 2 then be a good friend to him and just tell her. Player says they'd probably be happy together. Option 1 of 2 thank you. Otto wanted me to say hello, by the way. Eva says oh, he did? Haha. Good. Thank you. Have a good day at the Abbey, Andreas. Try to stay dry. Player says thanks. You too. Good luck. Be good, Ursula.
I haven't made a video game. I've had a dental emergency, which means when I talk, I currently sound like this.
She sells seashells by the seashore. The shells she sells are seashells, I'm sure.
The lisp is not conducive to making particularly compelling YouTube videos, and I am aware that having dental problems puts me squarely in the British stereotype of having bad teeth. Having said that, I won't let that stop me from getting a video out to all of you wonderful people. So what I thought I'd do is go through a few free text-to-speech options for anyone looking for a synthesized voice in their video game. Let's talk game design.
When we discuss computer-generated voices, you might immediately think of GLaDOS from the Portal series.
Oh, hi. So, how are you holding up? Because I'm a potato.
But her voice isn't actually text-to-speech synthesizer. It's actress Ellen McLean, overlaid with some technical edits by an audio engineer. By contrast, am not voiced by actress Ellen McLean. Sorry to disappoint you. Ironic side note, in order to generate this specific paragraph, I had to complete a CAPTCHA that had a tick box stating, I am not a robot. Having heard the voice, I'm not so sure.
Other examples of synthesized voices include the villagers in Animal Crossing, who speak to you in a variety of garbled letter pronunciations, mixed together to form sentences, in a way that eventually makes sense, but where you still need to read the text to understand the meaning. A bit like talking to a politician.
And who among us can forget the charming, if somewhat nonsense, wobbly noises made by the cast of Banjo-Kazooie?
Oh my god.
Peter says Andreas. Option 1 of 3. Are you doing alright, Peter? Option 2 of 3. Oh, I didn't see that the wall was Peter says it is. It must have broken in the night. Some of our sheep escaped. We'll have to track them down later. This is the way it always is. Rain falls on the abbey and rolls downhill to us little people. Player says well, it's hard to blame the abbey for that. That's just how rain works. Peter says there's a reason we're down here and they're up there, Andreas. Anyway, I have to get back to this. See you later. Gertner House. Gertner House. Gertner House. Eva. Eva says hello, Andreas. Gertner Farm. Town Commons. Andres says hello, Andreas. Player says good morning, Andres. So. Otto and Eva, hey? Andres says yes. What about them? Option 1 of 2. How is their courtship developing? Doing fine, you think? Andres says I'm not a gossip, Andreas. Option 1 of 3. I do not ask this to pour water onto the rumor mill, but for the concern I have for the happiness of my friends. Option 2 of 3. Otto practically. Andres says did he really? Or did you just assume the part all on your own? You've started picking up poor habits during your time in Tassing, Andreas. It can't be the Gertners. Peter is stern. Maybe the monks talk too much? Well, if you ask me, I think Otto's being a bit too slow about it. Player says oh. Andres says he's old enough already not to be smitten like a boy. They both like each other. Seems to me, if you found the right person, you should go for it. It's what I would do. Option 1 of 2. What stopped you? Option 2. Andres says oh. That's a private matter. Option 1 of 2. You can trust me, Andres. Aren't we friends? Option 2 of 2. I have an intended, Sabine, waiting for me in Nuremberg. Option 1 of 2. Andres says that's what the gossipers always say. But we are friends, I can't deny that. I do hope to find someone to have at my side as we build a family. God has not given me this blessing. Option 1 of 2. Worry not. It could happen at any moment, Andres. Andres says one hopes so. I must get back to work, Andreas. Player says until later.
These writers.
Gertner Farm. And Gertner Farm. Central Town. Alvin Bake Ulrich. Ulrich says God be with you, Andreas. Seems like we have a good spring storm, though I hope it lets up soon. Option 1 of 2. Good morning. I'm sure it will let up soon. Ulrich says as God wills it. Agnes says Ulrich, I paid bread for last week's pumpernickel. Sorry to make you wait for it. Ulrich says it's no trouble at all. Please say hello to Agnes says of course. Now I'm option 1 of 2. Good morning, Agnes. What's going on at the Pfeiffers? Option 2 of 2 in this one. Agnes says Helena has about a month to go before her child is due. Her last one was hard. He didn't make it, God rest his soul. I just want to give her the best chance she can have. Ulrich says it is in God's hands. Trust in Providence. Agnes says always, Ulrich, but I'll do what I can to help. Why make the Lord do all the work? I must be off now. Good day to you both, and Andreas, stay out of the rain. Option 1 of 2. Tell Helena I will pray for her health. Agnes says she will appreciate that, Andreas. Thank you. Player says until later, Agnes. North Town. Steinauer House. Petschlau, Church and Druckers. Drucker House. Franz Bauer, Mill. Thomas. Lucky says father, I've said this before, but it isn't good that the water drains here so quickly. It's affecting the foundation. It needs to be looked at. Thomas says I understand, but if you dig here, you may be disturbing the bodies decomposing in the yard. Lucky says of course, father, but they're going to be dug back up again anyway. Thomas says yes, but why disturb them unnecessarily? Lucky says it's your church, Father, but you can't put this off forever. The foundation is going to crack. Thomas says I understand. Perhaps after some of the bones have been moved to the ossuaries. Thank you, Lucky says Thomas says good day, Master Mailer. Player says good day, Father Thomas. Option 1 of 2 everything alright with the church? Option 2 of 2 I didn't mean to eat. Thomas says oh, worry not. Lucky was just reminding me of the danger severe rainfall can pose to the foundation. God looks after his flock, but sometimes the pen requires an earthly hand. It will be taken care of. God be with you, Andreas. Player says and with you, Father Thomas. Until later. Meadow. Player says Columbine. Looks like it's Mill. Till says hello, Master Mailer, Forest. Player says Martin. Hey. Martin. Martin says eat shit, Andreas. Achoo. Player says. I should get to the scriptorium. Jernot will give me an earful if I'm late again. Forest. Lower Abbey. My claw. Upper Abbey. My claws. My claw says God be with you, Andreas. Option 1 of 2 is God with us. Look at this rain. My claw says the weather is unfortunate, but the Baron's wife, Lady Salomia, will be arriving today. My lord intends to depart as soon as she arrives. Player says how long have they been married? My claw says 7 years, now. She's a fine woman, a true lady. Player says I was hoping to bid farewell to the Baron before he leaves. My claw says I'm sure he would appreciate that. He spoke highly of you. He was disappointed that you didn't debate him at supper, but he understands that you didn't want to anger the abbot. Option 1 of 4 right. I still have to work here for the next month or 2. Option 2 of 4 part of the art of rhetoric is understanding the right form in which to persuade someone. Option 3 of 4 he should have known that Luther's positions against the church wouldn't have been a welcome topic. My claw says my lord has a particular fondness for bringing up uncomfortable subjects, you may have noticed. Player says is there any chance I could redeem myself in the Baron's eyes? My claw says perhaps not on this occasion. I believe you may have offended the Baron in some other way as well. Player says some way? My claw says or some ways. I would not fret too much about it, Master Mailer. He is a forgiving man. Player says where has your master gone, then? My claw says he went for a walk early in the morning. He didn't say when he'd be back. Option 1 of 2 I hope he returns soon. The rain is turning everything to mud. My claw says my lord might surprise you, Andreas. He never minds getting mud on his boots. Of course, I'm the one who has to clean them. Option 1 of 2 the Baron seems to be quite an unusual man in many ways. My claw says it may be so. I only know him as my lord for these last 7 years. That reminds me. Did you see a short, surly looking young man in a hat on your way up this morning? Option 1 of 3 wink. Surely you don't mean me? My claw says no. He was shorter than you by 2 hands, at least. Option 1 of 2 that can only be Martin Bauer. Option 1 of 2 I might have gone with sullen, or whiny, but yes, that's him. Option 2 of 2 he ran past. My claw says that would explain my lord's missing rings. Option 1 of 2 what rings are these? Option 2 of 2 my claw says I went to pack the Baron's things and they were missing. Option 1 of 2 the boy is a known thief. It wouldn't surprise me if he's responsible for the missing rings. Option 2 of 2 why do my claw says yesterday I caught the boy with the hat, Martin, I suppose, peering in through the windows. I could have admonished him at the time, but, well, he seemed harmless. Player says that's a shame. I hope the Baron won't be too put out. My claw says my lord is a man of some means. He won't miss the gold, or the rings. I do think he will be upset about the book. He was quite excited for the abbot to see it. In any case, I must finish preparing the horses. It was good talking to you, Andreas. Player says of course. I hope this rain lets up for you soon. My claw says God willing. Until next time. Player says until then. My claws. My upper abbey. Church. Church. Monastery Loquarium. Cloister, crypt, tower. Dormitory, old bail, sacristy. Old Bailey dormitory. Old Bailey. Scriptorium. Guy says, oh, this is wonderful. The rest of the abbey is soaked and there's not a drop of rain in here. Good thing the abbot had auto-replaced the roof to the scriptorium and library last month. With the kale factory next door, we can stay warm while everyone else is cold and wet. Edoc says instead of bragging about our good fortune, you should think upon your brothers and sisters and pray for their health and safety. Option 1 of 2 Brother Edoc, aren't you happy that the books are safe? Option 2 of 2 The abbot's foresight saved a lot of our work and protected what's in the library. The town hasn't fared as well. Option 1 of 2 Brother Edoc says Brother Guy's mirth at the misfortunes of our brethren has quenched the flame of joy in my heart. Guy says hey. We have the grumpy old monk, but where's the nice one? Player says Brother Pierrot. Haven't you seen him yet today? Edoc says I did, before Brother Guy arrived. Brother Pierrot left to speak to the abbot some time ago. Guy says what? Why is Matthew ringing the bell? It can't be Terse already. Edoc says I pray it stops soon. Such a cacophony is an assault on my frail ears. Guy says it's not stopping. I suppose this means we're being summoned to the chapter house. Edoc says God, give me the strength to endure the rain. Guy says it's 50 feet, old man. You'll live. Edoc says God, give me the strength to endure this man. Player says it's still not stopping. What's going on? This can't all be because of the storm. I should see what's the matter. Old Bailey. Cemetery. Scriptorium. 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 Cemetery. Church. Dormitory. Church. Old Bailey. Sacristy. Old Bailey. Dormitory. Tower. Crypt. Cloister. Cloister. Dormitory. Kitchen and cellar. Dormitory. Church. Player set refectory. Courtyard and large garden. Courtyard and lavatorium. Large garden. Chapter house. Monastery loquarium. Chapter house. Monastery loquarium. Chapter house. Infirmary. Upper Abbey. Chapter house. Option 1 of 2 What's happened? Option 1 of 2. Option 2 of 2 Remain silent. Pierrot says please, Father, where is Brother Florian? Have him come quickly. Gernot says be silent, brother. Brother Florian, if you please. Florian says I'm sorry, Father. There's nothing to be done. He's dead. Marguerite says ay. Cecilia says Sister Marguerite, calm yourself. Sister Gertrude, please take Sister Marguerite back to the garden. Gertrude says yes, Mother Cecilia. Gernot says God protect us. The Baron was, a friend of the Prince Bishop of Freising. Player says why is he so worried about the Prince Bishop? Guy says this abbey is odd in more than one way. Its existence offends some in the church. We are far enough from Rome and Mainz that everyone forgets about us, but this could bring unwanted attention. Gernot says Florian, how easily do you think you could dispose of this body? Florian says, Father Abbot, what are you saying? Gernot says why are you questioning me? Why are you wasting precious time? Do you want to see the soldiers of the Prince Bishop march up our steps and fling your brothers and sisters out of our home? Zevinus says, Rutger says, Illuminatus, Matthew says, Woje Slop, Matilda says Ave Maria, Grazia Plena. Gernot says silence. Quiet. Cecilia says calm yourselves, all of you. Father Abbot, Baron Rothvogel's manservant is already preparing to leave. The Baron's wife should be here in a matter of hours. This is not the time for rash decisions. Gernot says yes, you're right. Forgive me, but then, what will we do? Cecilia says we must send the Baron's man to the court of the Prince Bishop in Freising at once. Matthew says Mother Cecilia, the Baron said the Prince Bishop's Archdeacon was in Innsbruck for the Imperial Diet. Cecilia says even better. Swift action will silence any whispers of impropriety on our part. Given the Baron's stature, the Archdeacon will undoubtedly come to investigate immediately. We must cooperate with him fully and pray for a speedy resolution. Gernot says yes, yes. Good. Thank you, Mother Cecilia. Brother Wojciech, please detain Brother Piero in the cellar until the Prince Bishop's man arrives. Wojciech says what? Brother Piero. Option 1 of 3, that's absurd. Option 2 of 3, Father Gernot. Gernot says he was caught in flagranti delicto. Covered in blood with a knife in his hand. Florian says, Father, do you really believe that Brother Piero is capable of such a foul deed? Gernot says yes. Capable enough when motivated by anger. Piero says I had no anger against the Baron, Father Abbot. I simply came across him like this. Gernot says no anger? Not even for insulting your work and forcing us to give it to Andreas. This is not a subject for debate. When the Prince Bishop's man arrives, we must not be empty-handed. Option 1 of 2, even if Piero wanted to kill the Baron, he's not physically capable of the act. Player says he can barely hold a brush, much less plunge a knife into a man's body. Gernot says be quiet. This is not your affair. Option 1 of 2, it is my affair if you are going to make me part of Brother Piero's supposed motive. Option 2 of 2, forgive me. Gernot says your position has been noted. My decision stands. Brother Wojciech will detain Brother Piero in the cellar until I say otherwise. Brother Florian, please escort Andreas out of the abbey. Andreas, do not show your face here again until tomorrow. Do you understand me? Option 1 of 3, yes. Florian says, Andreas, listen to me. I sympathize with you. I don't think Piero did this, either, but this isn't the time to push the abbot. I'm sure the other brothers and sisters believe Piero is innocent as well, but the abbot is worried about the Prince Bishop's attention. Option 1 of 2, if you have any recommendations, I'd love to hear them. Florian says take a few hours to calm your nerves and your mind. You need to think clearly. Go to the Druckers, eat a good meal, and come back at nones. We won't have much time, but tap on my window with a small stone and I'll let you in. Player says let me in for what? Florian says to examine the body. Player says I should follow Florian's advice and go to the Druckers. Hopefully it will clear my head. Lower Abbey. Shrine. Convent Garden. Shrine. Lower Abbey. Meadow. Forest, till, mill. Church and Druckers. Klaus says good day, Andreas. Back from the abbey already? It's only noon. Andreas, are you alright? Option 1 of 3, no. Something terrible has happened. Klaus says oh, God. No, forgive me. Come inside and sit down for a minute. Option 1 of 2, if it's not an imposition, I'd appreciate a moment to rest. Option 2 of 2, yes. Klaus says I have just the thing, then. I'd like your opinion on my latest project. Marie says good day, Andreas. Should I fix you a plate? Option 1 of 3, if it's not too much trouble, I'd appreciate it. Option 2 of 3, I'm always glad to eat your cooking, Marie. Option 3 of Marie says that's a shame, but I'll fix you a plate anyway in case it comes back. Berthold says hello. Option 1 of 2, hello, Berthold. How Berthold says sleepy. Klaus says come back to my workshop. I'm going to do a new run of Till Ulenspy gel. There was a printing a few years ago in Strasbourg but it was awful. Almost bereft of illustrations. What do you think of these new ones? Option 1 of 2, they look wonderful. Excellent work. Option 2 of 2, the figures and composition are terrific, but the background is quite dense and busy. Player says I would suggest running this in 2 passes, with the background elements in a lighter ink, to help the characters stand out. Klaus says that's a fine idea. I'll pass on your compliments to Marie. Player says are these her woodcuts? Klaus says they are. The drawings were mine, but she did the block cuts. I've got enough talent to draw the designs, but only she can do the woodcuts and the type. Klaus says bless us, O Lord, and these, your gifts, which we are about to receive from your bounty. Through Christ, our Lord, Amen. Marie says amen. Berthold says amen. I'm hungry. Option 1 of 2 hat. Amen. Berthold says hi hat. Marie says Andreas, what were the bells for at the Abbey? They were sounding for a long time. Player says the visiting nobleman, Lorenz Rothvogel, was found murdered in the chapter house. Klaus says God in heaven. He just rode by here yesterday. Player says yes. And it gets worse. One of the elderly brothers I work with in the scriptorium, Pierrot, was accused of the crime. Marie says that's awful. A murder in Kiersau? How could a monk do such a thing? Klaus says I'm sorry, Andreas. The Baron seemed like an interesting man, and I know he's been a patron of the Abbey for years. How did he die? Could it have been an accident? And does the abbot really believe that Brother Pierrot killed him? You've always spoken of him in the kindest terms. Option 1 of 3 it seemed like Lorenz had been stabbed, but I don't know. There was a lot of blood around him. Option 2 of 3 there was a lot of blood, but I'd rather not speculate about what happened. Option 1 player says but no, I can't believe Pierrot did it. I can't imagine him harming anyone. Marie says stabbed. It's hard for me to imagine a monk doing that as well, but who knows. Oh, but could it have been one of the sisters? Klaus says but if it wasn't Brother Pierrot, who do you think could have done it? Player says I did see Lucky Steinauer get into a shouting argument with Lorenz yesterday just before I walked by your place. Klaus says Lucky? Why would he have cause to shout at a nobleman? Marie says there's probably something else going on that you wouldn't know about, dear. Player says what do you mean by that? Marie says I'm not one to trade gossip, but if you really want to know, talk to some of the other women in town. Or Mother Cecilia up at the Abbey. Option 1 of 2 why Mother Cecilia? I didn't realize she saw much of Tassing. Klaus says oh, there's no need for that. Lucky is a forthright man. I'm sure if you ask him, he'll tell you what the argument was about. Player says thank you, both. That's good advice. There's something else, though. When Lorenz and I were walking through the meadow, the widow Kempbaron came out of the woods and Klaus says yes. Player says well, she cursed him. Marie says I'm not surprised. Adelai's late husband, Rennig, ran afoul of Lorenz on his last visit to Tassing. I don't remember the details, but Rennig died just last year and Adelai hasn't been the same since. Klaus says she was always an old bitch, even before she was old. Marie says Klaus. That's enough. She's had to deal with a job's lot in life. And now she lives all alone at the edge of the woods. There are rumors she's going to lose her property soon. Klaus says I do pity her, even if she is a B. Marie says. Klaus says, bitter woman. There should be some exception in the law for her to inherit. Option 1 of 3 women are not legally barred from inheriting. It all depends on the details of the lease. Player says did she come from a wealthy family? Klaus says she did, in fact. Wealthier than Rennig's anyway.
Oh, I want my blanket and my... It's not here anymore. Okay, she did a fat brother in minutes.
Player says if the land they lived on was part of her dowry, she may make a case to lay claim to it or property of equal value. Marie says well, are you a lawyer? Andreas.
Yes.
Claw says enough about Adelia. Is there anyone else you think may have done it? Player says I don't know if he has any ill intent, but Prior Frank has been acting strangely since the day Lawrence arrived. Claw says perhaps an academic disagreement? I know they're both avid readers, both of classics and new works. On his last visit, the Baron bought a book on astronomy from me. I know the Prior has some similar interests.
Last a while.
Marie says but would the Prior kill someone over a simple disagreement? Player says it's not
Maybe.
that outlandish. When I was in university, I saw men throw punches over small academic concerns.
EC equals MC squared 4. No, it wasn't ECE equals MC squared 4. It's just MC squared.
What is an opinion for some is a testament of faith for others, and worth killing for. Claus says that may be so, but I've never seen that sort of anger in Prior Ferenc, not even when Gernot was made abbot instead of him. Afterward, he seemed bitter, but never violent. That just doesn't seem to be part of his character. Marie says so. Lucky, the widow, and the Abbey Prior. Anyone else? Player says there was something strange when we approached the Abbey together. Mother Cecilia was outside with some of the sisters. Mother Cecilia scowled and took the nuns inside without saying a word. Claus says it sounds like they have a history, at least. Marie says I do not know Mother Cecilia personally, but I have never heard anyone speak badly of her. If she had cause to dislike the Baron, I must believe she had good reason. Claus says well, Andreas, it sounds like there's a lot to look into. Option 1 of 2 thank you for talking to me. I was feeling overwhelmed. Claus says you are always welcome here, Andreas, anytime. Berthold says yeah. Marie says you are especially welcome with this one. Claus says God be with you, Andreas. Option 1 of 2 thank you. God be with you. Option Berthold says I'll try. Drucker House. Player says I have several leads to follow, but where should I start? I could talk to Lucky Steinauer. He's probably working in front of his house. The widow Kemp Baron lives south of here, near Franz Bauer. Prior Ferenc is usually at the scriptorium, but I won't be able to talk to him until tomorrow. Speaking of the scriptorium, I really should look at what Ferenc was writing in that book yesterday. Still, nothing would prevent me from talking to Mother Cecilia in the convent. But if I don't attend Brother Florian's examination of the body at the Abbey, he'll have to do it without me. Franz Bauer and Mill. Meadow. Forest. Meadow. Mill. Till. Till says hello, Master Mailer. Forest. Lower Abbey. Upper Abbey. Lower Abbey. Shrine. Lower Abbey. Lower Abbey. Shrine. Player says Brother Matthew maintains this shrine along with some of the sisters, who paint badges for pilgrims. Upper Abbey. Upper Abbey. Lower Abbey. Throw stone. Florian says Andreas. This way. Florian says there you are. I'm glad the storm didn't delay you. Now, even though I gave instructions that I was not to be disturbed, we must work quickly. Seeing a corpse up close can be unsettling for some. I hope you're up to it. Option 1 of 2 well. I'm not sure, but I want to help Pierrot. Option 2 of 2 I've paged through the fasciculus medicini and seen its wound illustrate. Florian says books don't quite convey the reality of the situation, Andreas. Or the smell. Now then, you should probably take notes as we go. They might be useful later. Player says ah. Of course. Florian says I will begin by inspecting his anterior, starting with the face and head. No visible wounds. No blemishes. Teeth in good condition. Nothing unusual. Neck, shoulders, and chest are ordinary. I need to clean some blood away to examine the torso. Yes, there it is, a puncture wound between the 6th and 7th ribs. Florian says it's fairly shallow, though. I estimate it penetrated only about an inch. And it likely came from his own hand. Option 1 of 3 wait, he inflicted on himself? How can you tell? Option 3, Florian says what? Player says Nuremberg inches are longer. Florian says. Player says I'll write down Nuremberg inch. Option 1 of 2 but, that doesn't sound deep enough to have killed him. Option 2 of 2, Florian says from the angle and depth of the strike. It is as though he were holding it in his right hand as he fell on his side. You must know that I was not always a monk. I was a mercenary for 10 long years in Poland. My familiarity with wounds comes from my time on the battlefield. I am no true surgeon, but I am the closest Kearsaw has. Player says if the wound was that shallow, it doesn't sound like it could have been fatal. Florian says it wasn't. It's likely incidental, received while falling on his own knife. He must have some other wound that issued forth all the blood we found him in. Option 1 of 2 then surely this must mean that Brother Pierrot is innocent. Option 2 of Florian says I don't know. I can't even speculate. All I can do is examine this body and hope that you can figure out the rest. Simply pointing out the implausibility of Brother Pierrot striking the fatal blow may not be enough to convince the Archdeacon. Brother Pierrot never should have picked up that knife. I'm sure the appearance of guilt never even crossed his mind. Now then, let's move on. Well, there is a sore on his sex. Probably from the French disease. I doubt it had anything to do with his murder. Player says I'm not familiar with it. Florian says it was first discovered 20 years ago by French soldiers visiting brothels in Naples. Anyway, it seems the Baron was not the most faithful husband. Not uncommon among the nobility. Option 1 of 2 I would expect a monk to be more shocked by this. Florian says I spent many years as a mercenary. Sex and death are common companions in that world. Besides, sex isn't all that rare even in an abbey. Option 1 of 3 I see. Option 3 of 3 between the brothers. Option 2 of 3 between the monks and the nuns. Option 3 of 3 between the brothers.
Oh no, I don't know. I don't know. That's what I want to ask.
Florian says it's not relevant to our examination, Andreas. Let's continue. Other than a few blisters on his feet from what I assume are new shoes, there's nothing wrong with his legs. Andreas, can you help me turn him over? Option 1 of 2, of course.
Oh, he's got like crabs. Don't touch him. Oh. Why does he look all small?
Florian says there's a slight irregularity in his spine, possibly from an old injury.
Wow, they didn't have an art department for this.
I don't think it has anything to do with how he died, though. Player says how could that have happened? Florian says I have no idea. Whatever the reason, it didn't contribute to his death. Here it is. A rather dramatic head wound. Florian says the dark hair and the blood make it difficult to see, but it's quite bad. In my experience, I've never seen someone walk away from a head wound of this severity. Option 1 of 2 say nothing. Option 2 of 2, Florian says too many and not enough. As grim as it sounds, there is always more to learn. Italian doctors try to examine as many corpses as they can to fully understand the mysteries of the body. The battlefields of Poland and Lithuania aren't as ideal a learning environment as the University of Bologna, but they did provide an education, of sorts. Option 1 of 2. I'd rather be treated by someone with experience than a novice with a university education. Option 2 of 2. Why didn't you study medicine in a university? Florian says my family was too poor to even consider it. Mercenary work was my way off of the farm. The wound looks like it was caused by a single powerful blow from a blunt object, probably no more than 4 or 5 inches across. Option 1 of 2. Say nothing. Option 2 of 2. How can you tell? Florian says the skull is cracked in a single spot and there's a clear impression in the skin around it. It would take extraordinary precision to hit the same spot twice unless the Baron were already dead. It's likely he didn't die immediately. Player says how long he could have survived for? Florian says I've seen similar injuries in battle. The victims don't last more than a few minutes, but it's an agonizing death. Even so, he couldn't have wandered far from where the blow was first struck. Player says so he may not have been attacked in the chapter house? Florian says he was either attacked in the chapter house or someplace in the immediate area. Option 1 of 4. Could he have been attacked outside of the abbey? Option 3 of 4. What about option 4 of 4? Is the church a possible option 2? Option 1 of 4. Could he option 3 of 4? What about the big garden? Option 1 of Florian says no, I don't think so. With a wound like that, he would have collapsed before he got inside. And certainly someone would have seen him. Anyway, whatever killed the Baron was a blunt instrument of considerable heft. The part that impacted him was likely a little smaller than a fist. Player says could it have actually been a fist? Florian says ha. No, I don't think the strongest soldier could do this with a punch unless the Baron's head were pressed to the ground. Even then we would also see damage to his nose or forehead. Player says could a woman or an elderly person have done it? Florian says anyone could have, given the right weapon and sufficient height. Whoever did this must have caught the Baron unaware. Save the small knife wound, he has no other injuries. I suppose that he was struck, drew his knife to defend himself, and fell on it before Brother Piero discovered him. So, I believe we've discovered 2 important things. Option 1 of 2. Piero didn't stab the Baron, and even if he had, that isn't what killed him. Option 2 of 2. The Baron was killed by a blow to the head from a heavy, blunt object. Florian says yes, exactly. If you can find what caused the blow, it may lead you to the killer. Player says we also know that Piero didn't stab the Baron. Florian says we know that, and I suspect even the abbot knows that. Oh. There is one other item of interest. I found it in the Baron's jacket, but didn't want to open it without you. Florian says a note of some kind. As I am a caretaker of men, you are a caretaker of parchment. I leave it to your capable hands. Florian says what does it say? Player says the girl. The girl who died and the innocent with her. Madane's chapter. Florian says the girl? What girl? And what innocent? Option 1 of 3. One of the nuns? Option 3 of 3. Your guess. Florian says unfortunately, I don't have much faith in my guesses. Can you tell who wrote it? Option 1 of 3. It's definitely someone with a great deal of experience as a scribe, but it can't be Edoc or Guy. Option 2 of 3. Someone with an extremely refined hand. This was done without any guides. Option 3 of 3. They're not in Italian, I can tell you that. Italian scribes use humanist script. This is a highly refined Gothic hand. Player says as good as Edoc and Guy are, I don't think they could replicate this. Florian says what? Really? If not them, who?
I don't know. I'm okay already.
Option 1 of 2. I intend to find out.
I intend to find out, right? I do. Okay, right now at this juncture, if I had to hazard a guess, it's a suicide murder. We haven't seen who the second victim is. And I bet it's a child. I bet the killer's a child. I'm going to stand by that until we reach the end, right? Remember what I said, right? This thing was a suicide. There's some other thing. Some woman was killed because they keep hinting at it. And I think a child did this because it'd be the most shocking thing. Like Mystic River. Mystic River, at the end of it, you're like, whoa, a child did this, you know? And I get a Mystic River feeling from them here. Either a child or the nun.
Florian says I wish you good luck finding the answer. Now,
No,
I'm sorry
not
to
the
rush you,
nun.
but I must ask you to leave.
I don't know.
Every minute you stay here is additional RI.
I don't know. I don't think we've met the killer yet.
Option 1 of 2, were you expecting someone? Option 2 of 2, say nothing. Werner says, Brother Florian, could you open up? It's Werner Stalls, the physician from Tassing. Florian says yes. I'm in the middle of something. Could you return after supper? Werner says, I'm afraid it can't wait. Father Gernot asked me to examine the Baron's body. Florian says, all right. Just give me a moment. Andreas, I need you to hide yourself. Option 1 of 3, of course. Option 2 of 3, why? Option 3 of 3 from Werner. I don't care if he knows I'm here. Werner says, Brother Florian. Florian says yes, just a moment. Get behind the cupboard. Option 1 of 2, fine. Option 2 of 2, no. Florian says, Gur.
No, I'm not hiding. I'm not a criminal. I didn't do anything. Fuck it.
Dr. Stalls. Sorry to keep you waiting. Dr. Stalls, this is Andreas Mahler, an artist from Nuremberg. Werner says I'm vaguely aware of who he is. Artist from Nuremberg, boarding with peasants? Something about a failed attempt at university. Funny. What is he doing here? Option 1 of 3, what business is that of yours? Option 3 of 3, I interrupted Brother Florian's examination and he was urging me to leave when you arrived. Player says I apologize to you both. I just want to prove that Brother Piero couldn't have committed this murder. Florian says it's all right, Andreas. Your love for your friend is commendable. But yes, as the abbot ordered, you must stay out of the abbey until tomorrow. Understood? Player says of course. Forgive me, Brother Florian, Dr. Stalls. Werner says well, all right. Florian says until tomorrow. Andrea. Player says see you then. Player says I should find someone to eat with. I can't get that note out of my head. The girl who died and the innocent with her. What could it mean? And who wrote it? Lower Abbey. Journal. Options. Journal.
I want to go look at the scriptorium.
Lower Abbey.
I'm gonna go look at the scriptorium because I suspect that
Guest house. Guest house.
actually I want to check the house first. Yeah, look at this.
Pet Firstchen.
Oh. Good dog.
Lower Abbey.
Why
Pet
does it
First
look
Gen.
like he's got a beard?
Pet First Gen. Lower Abbey. Lady Salomia. Lady Salomia says, ah, Master Mailer. Would you care to share supper at my table? I would like to talk to you about my late husband. Option 1 of 3, my Lady Rothvogel. I would be honored to break bread with you. Lady Salomia says thank you. Please, sit. Lady Salomia says bless us, O Lord, and these, your gifts, which we are about to receive from your bounty. Through Christ, our Lord, Amen. Player says Amen. Lady Salomia says I find myself rather, out of place here, without the comfort of the Baron. Thank you for agreeing to share a meal with me, Master Mailer. Player says of course. The honor is mine. Option 1 of 2, it is a terrible thing, what happened to the Baron? Lady Salomia says it has given me the shock my life. I am trying to find comfort where can, in my ladies and the Lord. Not that there is much comfort to be found in these cold and dreary alpine towns. Lawrence and I had meant to take a tour of them before returning home to Worms, but... well, return we shall. Option 1 of 3, I'm sorry for your loss, my lady. Option 2 of 3, but not as you'd hoped. Lady Salomia says no. Certainly not. It is only by Christ's grace that I will see this through. Though Lawrence has given me my fair share of troubles in the years of our marriage. I never would have wished such an end for him. For anyone. I pray his immortal soul has found the peace in death that so eluded him in life. Are you married yourself, Master Mailer? Option 1 of 2, a woman waits for me in Nuremberg. When I finish my work here, we will be wed. Option 2 of 2, no, and truth be told,
He wants
I'm not
to
looking
really
for option 1 of 2,
say
a
that
woman
he had
waits
a
for me in Nuremberg.
wife, but he
When I
doesn't
finish
want
my
to
work
say
here,
that to
option 2 of
anyone.
2, no, and truth, Lady Salomia says that is a shame. There are joys to be found in marriage, should you care to work for them. Perhaps it's no surprise you and Lawrence became fast friends. I imagine he saw something of himself in you. Option 1 of 2, rarely have I met someone with such a depth of knowledge and a thirst for debate. Option 2 of 2, I hope I should meet a more peaceful end than he did. Lady Salomia says his lusts for drink and women once afflicted him with great remorse, though such shame faded with time. Lawrence was a flawed man. His various infidelities were no secret to me. But are we not all flawed before Christ? I loved him as a wife should properly love her husband. But I would not say that we were friends. I only hope his appetites are not what lead him to this end. Player says I've been searching for the answer to that quandary myself. Lady Salomia says were you and Lawrence so close that you would trouble yourself so? Option 1 of 2, my motivation is personal. Option 2 of 2, I merely wish to see justice served, my lady. Option 1 of 2, my mentor, Brother Pierrot, was found with the Baron's body, but I do not believe he killed your husband. Lady Salomia says if not him, then who? Option 1 of 2, there are many possibilities, both here at the Abbey and in town. Player says your husband managed to cultivate many enemies in his short time here. Lady Salomia says that does sound like Lawrence. He was a man of many opinions, and he gave them freely, to all who would listen, and some who would not. The previous abbot, Father Matthias, seemed to appreciate that about him. This new abbot is, perhaps more conservative. Player says Father Matthias was an open-minded man, from all I've heard. A true scholar. Father Gernot doesn't share Matthias' passion for the written word, yet endures the expense of it. Lady Salomia says to be put in such a position would make any man unhappy. I understand. I wonder what he will make of Lawrence's gift to the Abbey. Option 1 of 2, what gift was this? Option 2 of 2, wait for her to continue. Lady Salomia says he had found a book about the history of Tassing. He believed it contained some scandalous details. He said it corroborated fears Father Matthias had expressed, but he didn't share the particulars with me. Option 1 of 3, do you have a sense of what the scandals involved? Option 2 of 3, was the appearance of the book peculiar or noteworthy in any way? Lady Salomia says it was neither large nor small. Bound in blue leather. Unfortunately I never examined it closely. My apologies. I'm sorry I can't be of more help. I have some education, but I lack my husband's thirst for knowledge. If you find the book, hopefully its significance will be apparent. Option 1 of 2, if God wills it. Option 1 of 2, do you plan to stay in Tassing long? Option 2 of 2, option 1 of 2, do you? Lady Salomia says only so long as it takes the Archdeacon to investigate my husband's murder. Though the circumstances of my time here are dire, I'm in no hurry to return. Option 1 of 2, why is that, if I may ask? Option 2, Lady Salomia says you are a disarming man, Master Mailer, and much too easy to talk to. To be frank, I do not know what will become of me when I return to Worms. My title and residence may be in jeopardy. Lawrence and I have a son, but he is young yet. I don't know many of the legalities, only that my position is at some risk. Option 1 of 3, would you like me to elucidate them for you? Option 2 of 3, you are in a difficult position. Option 1 of 3, would you like me to elucidate them for you? I studied imperial law at Erfurt. Lady Salomia says thank you, but no. I fear it will only heighten my unease. Lady Salomia says I am sorry to cut our conversation short, but I fear I must rest. Option 1 of 2, thank you for having me at your table. Lady Salomia says be well, Master Mailer, and whatever anyone says of my husband, I'm certain he appreciated your friendship. Lady Salomia. Player says I should get some sleep. Lady Salomia says hello, Master Mailer. Lower Abbey, Pet Firstchen. Pet Firstchen, Lower Abbey. Meadow. Forest. Forest. Shrine of Waterfall. Shrine of Saint Sasha. Meadow. Smokey's home. Smokey's home. Player says most of this spelling is for the Smokey's home. Forest.
Yeah, I didn't think so, but they mentioned him, so I wanted to check. Because I was like, why did they mention him? He doesn't seem to play a part in this. Then I wonder, well, maybe he's just, maybe he killed the guy. Maybe he's
Church and Druckers.
He's in from out of town, you know? So let's just go see if he was there.
Franz Bauer and Widow Kemperin. Drucker House. Central Town. Town Commons. Zimmerman House. Johann Bauer Farm. Johann Bauer House. Player says Johann's family keeps beehives for the honey and wax. Town Commons. Town Commons. Gertner Farm. Gertner House. Gertner Farm. Gertner Farm.
Why is that guy just sitting up sleeping? That's weird.
Gertner Guest Room.
I might go to bed very early tonight. I've been off my sleep meds for days, and my sleep schedule's all fucked up. Wait, no, wait. Oh, no, go back.
Gertner Guest Room.
I know it's Saturday night, but I don't care. I mean,
go to bed.
It's frankly, kind of hard.
Go to bed. Gertner House. Go to bed. Go to bed. Go to bed. Go to bed.
You can hear it.
Go to bed. 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 Player says it's getting late. I should get some rest. Option 1 of 2, go to sleep. Ursula says Andrew. Option 1 of 2, good more. Option 2 of Ursula says. Player says it's the middle of the night, Ursula. Option 1 of 2, what are you doing up here? Option 2 of 2, how did you get up? Ursula says. STF. Player says I see. Ursula says haha. Player says would you like me to tell you a story? Would that help you sleep? Ursula says Option 1 of 2, there was once a little girl, about your age, who was sold with a basket of oranges. Ursula says. Player says a man had to pay rent to the king every year. The cost was 4 baskets of oranges. This was in Italy, of course. You don't even know what an orange is. Ursula says. Player says anyway, the man's young daughter had hair the same color as yours, same as an orange. And the man didn't have enough oranges to pay the rent, so he put his daughter in the 4th basket. He covered her with oranges and sent the baskets to the king. When the king's servants found the little girl, the king told them to raise her as a servant. They called her Arancetta, like a little orange. You don't know Italian, so that doesn't mean anything to you, but it's very cute. Anyway, as the girl grew older, the king's son, the prince, fell in love with her. But the other servants were jealous, and they gave her 3 impos. Ursula says goofball. Player says anyway, they were very happy together. Go to bed.
What was that? See how I said it might be a child?
Player says time to get back to work.
Just saying. You get some foreshadowing and weird stuff going on.
Go to bed. Gertner house.
Might be the child. Man, did she do it?
Ursula says Andreer, PPPBBT. Andreer, PPPBBT. Andreer, PPPBBT. Gertner guest room. Gertner farm. Eva. Eva says hello, Andreas. Player says morning. I hope the day is treating you well. Eva says well enough, though there's too much to do and not enough hours to do it all. The storm made such a mess of the town, and there's the leaks in the roof at home, then there's all that wool, Lord. Player says what's this about wool? Eva says the ewes are near to lambing, so we sheared them last week. I must have spent ages washing all that wool. Have you ever smelled wet, dirty wool, Andreas? Ugh, there's nothing worse. Now that it's clean, we've got to spin it, and that takes an age all its own. Lord, I don't know where I'll find the time. Option 1 of 2 won't Clara help you? Option 2 Eva says sometimes I forget you are from Nuremberg, Andreas. Clara, Hetty, Veronica, Kot. Even little Ursula will be there, though she makes mischief more than she helps. At least the work goes quickly with the women working together. Lively conversation helps pass the time. Sometimes we even get visitors. Option 1 of 2 what kind of visitors? Option 2 of 2, could I be a visitor? Eva says you are welcome to come. I'm sure the others would be glad of your company, too. Johann Bauer will be there to keep an eye on us. As long as you stay outside, I can't see what harm you visiting would cause. Option 1 of 2 all right, count me in. Eva says I'm pleased to hear it. Everyone will be glad to see you, and I always appreciate your company. We meet at Johann Bauer's home. Come by in the morning or afternoon and speak to Johann. I should get back to work. It was a pleasure running into you, Andreas. Option 1 of 2, be well Eva. Gertner farm. Gertner guest Ursula. Gertner guest room. Gertner farm. Eva. Eva says it will be fun to have you spinning Gertner farm. Gertner house, Peter. Peter says Andreas. Ill Peter. Johann Bauer farm. Ill Peter says God bless you. Peter. Gertner house. Big Yerg. Town Commons. Big Yerg says hey, Andreas. Town Commons. Gertner farm. Johann Bauer farm. Zimmerman house. Zimmerman house. Otto says hey, Andreas. Otto. Town Commons. Church and Druckers. Central Town, Drucker House. Church and Druckers. Kloss. Franz Bauer Mill. Thomas. Thomas says God be with you, Andreas. Meadow. Forest. Meadow. Mill. Till says hello, Master Mailer, Forest. Lower Abbey. Guest house. Upper Abbey. Church. Cloister. Infirmary. Chapter house. Monastery Loquarium. Chapter house. Monastery Loquarium. Large garden. Courtyard and lavatorium. Refectory. Sabbat. Church. Dormitory. Church. Sabbat. Sabbat says Andreas, I am sorry about what is happening to Brother Pierrot. I do not know him well, but I find it hard to believe he could have killed the Baron. Option 1 of 2 he didn't. I'm going to figure out who did. Option 2 of 2, Sabbat says sadly, no. Most mornings I spend my time reading in the courtyard but the rain made that impossible. And although the brothers are friendly, I do not know them well enough to speculate. I am sorry. I know it might be far from your mind, but have you considered my offer to eat with you and the townspeople? The gospel says that man cannot live on bread alone, but from time to time, a little bread is required. Option 1 of 2 I need to continue looking into the Baron's murder. Perhaps later. Sabbat says of course. I understand. God give you health. Player says until later. Sabbat. Sabbat says God give you health. Church, dormitory. Kitchen and cemetery.
Like how he turned
Kitchen and cellar, dormitory. Kitchen and cellar, dormitory. Kitchen and cemetery. Player says the Old Bailey. Player says Brother Gerhard has been dead quite some time. Why is his grave disturbed? Player says Brother Gerhard has been dead quite some time. Why is his grave disturbed? Old Bailey. Scriptorium. Prior's house. Player says I still don't know the significance of the Volval. It must be used to decipher something, but what? Player says there are deep indentations in this parchment. Whoever wrote on the page above it must have been angry. I wonder if I could make a charcoal rubbing of this page and reveal the content of the writing. Aha. Clear as an alpine day. It's a letter to the Baron from Prior Ferenc. My god. Lawrence was blackmailing Ferenc to get him to perform some kind of occult ritual. Option 1 of 2. It's one thing to read books on magic, but few are foolish enough to attempt to actually practice what's written in them. Old Bailey. Scriptorium. Guy says good day, Andreas. Old Bailey. Church. Matthew says God bless you, Old Bailey. Dormitory. Tower, crypt, cloister. Luther says God bless you, Andreas.
Agnus redemit oves, Christus innocens Patri.
Cloister, crypt. Tower, crypt. Player says these tomb markers go back centuries, all the Abbot Dietrich, from the height of Kearsaw's power in the 14th century. Investigate. Player says a lovely relief of the Virgin and Child. Shame it's hidden down here. Options. Player says there must be something else. No, that's nothing special. That was it. Now what? Library.
I don't know how I found that, but I found
Library.
that. I'm so happy that I found that.
Player says the sisters may be in the library right now. I need to wait until Compline. Abbot Dietrich, from the height of Kearsaw's power in the 14th century. These tomb markers go back church. Player says the foundations of the abbey were built when the Romans occupied this land, not long after the church. Tower. Church. Crypt, cloister, Rudger. Monastery Loquarium. Cloister. Monastery, chapter house, infirmary. Player says St. Luke. The patron of artist, Florian. Florian says God bless you, Andreas. Player says most of these medicines were Florian. Cloister. Chapter house. Player says this bloodstain is awful. It must have been left by the Baron before he died, but how? A Dance of Death mural. Father Matthias had it painted a few years before his death. Large garden. Cloister. Cloister. Courtyard and lavatorium. Cloister. Cloister. Refectory, Sabbat, church, dormitory. Kitchen and cellar. Refectory. Player says when the brothers eat. Large garden. Player says I wonder what recipes the brothers have for peas. Kitchen. Animal pens. Cemetery. Player says a monument to the founder of the abbey. It's fairly recent. The funds were donated by her. Player says brother Gerhard has been dead quite some time. Why is his grave disturbed? Old Bailey. Scriptorium. Guy says good day, Andreas. Old Bailey. Church. Matthew, sacristy. Matthew says what is it you think you are doing, Master Mailer? Option 1 of 2 doing. Option 2 of 2 stare innocently. Matthew says stay away from the sacristy. You know you are not allowed in there. Option 1 of 2 of course. Option 2 of 2 you know me. I just like to take a peek where I'm not allowed. Matthew says what a uniquely fascinating and endearing trait. Stay out. Player says of course. My apologies. Matthew says thank you, Master Mailer. Matthew, old dormitory. Dormitory. Old Bailey. Church. Edoc says God bless you, Andreas, cloister. Church. Sabbat, refectory. Refectory. Kitchen and cellar. Large garden. Kitchen and cellar, cloister. Courtyard and large garden. Courtyard and lavatorium. Cloister. Large garden. Monast chapter house. Infirmary. Cloister. Upper Abbey. Church, Lower Abbey, Shrine, Convent Garden, Prioress House, Upper Abbey, Convent Loquarium, Pet Moss Fanger. Player says the sisters certainly keep their Pet Moss Fanger. Player says Sister Gertrude dries and stores all of her herbs here. Pet Moss Fanger. Player says him. This shovel has blood on the blade. Not normal. I think Sister Matilda uses it in the garden. I should ask her about it. Pet Moss Fanger. Convent Upper Abbey, Prioress House. Player says this door must lead into the rest of the convent. Not for me. Feverfew. It always smells so fresh. Feverfew. It always smells so fresh. Prioress House. Convent Garden. Cecilia. Cecilia says God bless you, and Player says God bless you, Mother Cecilia. Cecilia says is there something I can help you with? Option 1 of 2 I noticed that you took the sisters inside when I walked up with the Baron. Cecilia says what concern of it is yours? Option 1 of 3 given that the Baron was just murdered, it seems worth inquiring about the cause. Option 2 of 3 you said much and saying nothing. Option 1 of 3 given that the Baron... Cecilia says why? Do you not trust in the abbot's judgment? Option 1 of 4 it is not the abbot's judgment that matters, but the Option 2 of 4 it's not that. Option 3 of 4 no, of course I don't. Brother Pierrot? He wouldn't hurt a mouse. Option 4, Cecilia says that is not an answer, Andreas. You must be careful how you ask and answer questions right now. The abbot does not want anything to interfere with the archdeacon's investigation. That includes you. Option 1 of 2 then help me. Cecilia says help you what? Blame someone else for the murder? Option 1 of 3 well, yes. Option 2 of 3 you know that Pierrot didn't murder the Baron. Option 3 Cecilia says what does justice look like, Andreas? Option 1 of 3 this is not a Socratic exercise, Mother Cecilia. Cecilia says and you are no Thrasymachus. Fair point. Someone will die for this murder, Andreas. If it is not Brother Pierrot, it will be someone else. The killing of a powerful noble cannot go unpunished, especially while he was under the protection of the abbot. Player says then help me find who did it before the archdeacon arrives. Cecilia says I am simply a nun. Why do you think I can help you? Option 1 of 2. You know what happens at this abbey better than anyone. Option 2 of 2. I saw how you reacted when the Baron arrived. Cecilia says all right. I did have reason to be concerned about Baron Rothvogel's presence. The Baron caused irreparable harm to one of the sisters on his last visit. The damage was severe enough that she had to leave us for some time. Option 1 of 2. Say nothing. Option 2 of 2. What kind of harm? Cecilia says irreparable. That is why I removed the sisters from his presence as soon as I could. Option 1 of 2. Which sister? Can I speak with her? Option 2 of 2. Are there any who may have wanted revenge? Option 1 of 2. Cecilia says I know. Andreas. I don't think that would be appropriate. Option 1 of 2. All right. This doesn't help me much if I don't know what happened or to whom. Option 2 of 2. Say nothing. Cecilia says it's a painful memory, Andreas. Option 1 of 2. All right. This doesn't help me much if I don't know what happened or to whom. Option 2. Cecilia says I understand this is less information than you likely wanted, but I do not think I can tell you any more in good conscience. Trust me when I say that the victim of this incident could not have killed the Baron. Player says I need more than that. Are there any records on her? On what happened? Cecilia says yes, we keep records on all the sisters in the library. Not that it does you any good. You are not allowed. Option 1 of 2. This again? Cecilia says again. It's the way Kearsarge has been run for centuries. No men are allowed in the library other than the abbot himself. That's not going to change now. Option 1 of 2. I can sneak in on my own, you know. I found. Option 2 of 2. Sister Illuminata told me there's a secret entrance into the library. Option 1 of 2. I can sneak in on my own. Option 2 of 2. Sister Illuminata. Cecilia says oh. And do you know where it is? Player says yes. I found it while exploring the crypt. Cecilia says. Don't try it. You'll be caught and you'd be lucky if the abbot only banished you from the abbey until Judgment Day. Option 1 of 2 millimeters. We'll see. Thank you for. Option 2 of 2. You're probably right. God bless you, Mother Cecilia. Cecilia says may God bless you, Andreas Mailer. Convent Garden. Convent Garden. Upper Abbey. Convent Loquarium. Player says the doors into the convent are locked to outsiders. Men, Convent Garden. Player says a painting of Hildegard of Bingen, Mother Cecilia's Convent Garden. Player says the sisters certainly keep their garden well tended. Tassing is lucky to have so much woundwort naturally growing. I had to buy it back in Nuremberg. Ah, the many-petaled cinquefoil. It grows so easily some consider it a weed. Ah, the many-petaled cinquefoil. It grows so easily some consider it a weed. Sister Gertrude dries and stores all of her herbs here. Pet Moss Fanger. Convent Upper Abbey. Convent Loquarium. Player says the doors into the convent are locked to outsiders. Convent Garden. Upper Abbey. Prioress House. Upper Abbey. Convent Loquarium. Convent Loquarium. Upper Abbey. Shrine. Lower Abbey. Church. Monastery Loquarium. Rudger. Cloister. Crypt. Tower. Dormitory. Old Bailey. Scriptorium. Guys, Old Bailey. Player says him. I wonder what Prior Ferenc was doing with this book. From the library of the University of Five Churches. The Hungarians call it PEX. That's where Ferenc is from. Doctor of Theology George of Gran. Option 1 of 2 a friend of his. Option 1 of 2 a friend of his. Option 2 of 2 did Ferenc steal this? Player says ah. The Speculum Astronomia, Albertus Magnus Defense of Astrology. Option 1 of 2 sloppy bookhand. Couldn't have been produced by an abbey of note. Option 2 of 2 bastard script. Burgundian. Flemish. Not from here and not recently. Player says that's definitely Ferenc's handwriting between the lines and in the margins. Option 1 of 3 is he notating the text for the university in PEX? Option 3 player says in any case, it's a thorough commentary. What's this? It looks scribbled, not like Ferenc to be so sloppy. And he didn't even blot the ink dry. Libra, Capricorn, Aries. All astrological symbols. What's written below? Option 1 of 2 Greek, to be sure, odd koexu. Player says that doesn't make any sense. That's not even a word, just a jumble of letters. This must be some kind of cipher. What's the key? Wait, the volvel I found also has Greek letters on it. They must be connected, but how? The outer ring of the volvel is marked with alchemical symbols, but this cipher has astrological symbols. There's something I'm missing. I suppose I'll figure it out in due time. But I'll copy this down now to reference later. Old Bailey, guy. Guy. Old Bailey. Ex-Reapers. Prior's house. Scriptorium. Cemetery. Scriptorium. Guy. Old Bailey. Old Bailey. Cemetery. Scriptorium. Church. Dormitory. Church. Edoc. Cloister. Edoc says God bless cloister. Church. Dormitory. Kitchen and cellar. Dormitory. Church. Sabbat. Refectory. Refectory. Kitchen and cellar. Player says when the brothers eat. Large garden. Kitchen. Animal pens. Kitchen and cellar. Refectory. Cloister. Chapter house. Cloister. Infirmary. Upper Abbey. Infirmary. Chapter house. Monastery Loquarium. Monastery Loquarium. Church. Church. Rutger. Cloister. Crypt. Tower. Church. Crypt. Player says these two markers go Abbot Dietrich, from the height of Kearsaw's power in the 14th century. Those days have long passed. Player says the sisters may be in the library right now. I need to wait until Compline. Library. Church. Tower. Dormitory. Old Bailey. Dormitory. Edoc. Church. Tower. Crypt. Cloister. Rutger. Monastery. Upper Abbey. Lower Abbey. Shrine. Shrine. Lower Abbey. Guest house. Abbot house. Guest house. Meadow. Forest. Till. Till says hello. Mill. Player says a shrine to St. Moritz. Mill. Roman. Lenhart. Lenhart says morning. You're the Gertner's border, aren't you? Options. Language. Easy. Diet. Head scale. Options. Player says how could you tell? Lenhart says you've the sallow look of a man who doesn't see the sun much. Quite unlike the Gertners. Option 1 of 2 they're farmers. You expect them to act like kings? Lenhart says a little dignity wouldn't hurt them. They bleat like sheep when times get hard. Only Eva's got a backbone. How is she, by the way? Option 1 of 2 what does she matter to you? Lenhart says I'm only curious. She used to bring their barley to me, but Peter insists on delivering it now. A shame. She'd shown some curiosity about the mill. I'd hoped to foster that. Option 1 of 2. It is a handsome mill. Lenhart says she's the only windmill in Bavaria, did you know? Constructed in exacting detail from Dutch specifications. The gem of the Alps. And none of the incurious dolts here can appreciate it. Except you. Option 1 of 2. Yes, I'm sure it's the peasants who are the problem. Option 2 of 2. Player says I should be going. Until later. Lenhart says until then, mailer. Lenhart. Player says what a curious mill, Paul. Paul says hello. Player says Paul, right? I don't think we've talked before. I'm Andreas. I'm staying with the Gertners. Paul says oh. But you're not a farmer. Why are you living with the farmers? Player says they're letting me board with them while I work in the Abbey's scriptorium. Paul says you're a monk? Player says I'm an artist. Paul says oh. Like you do drawings? Player says drawing, painting, calligraphy. If it goes in a book, I can put it there. Paul says oh. Is that, how do you get money? Player says what? The Abbey pays me, of course. Art is a job, just like being a miller is a job. But it's also a calling. Paul says I didn't. My dad says drawing's stupid. It's not option 1 of 2. Your dad's wrong. Option 2 of 2. Paul says yes. More than anything. But I have to do it where dad can't see. He gets mad. Player says I'm sorry to hear that. Option 1 of 2. But if it means a lot to you. Maybe he doesn't need to know. Paul says can I tell you a secret? Option 1 of 2. Nothing on this earth would please me more, young Master Muller. Paul says sometimes I draw on the ruins. In the meadow, where dad can't see. Option 1 of 2. The Romans would have been honored. They loved defacing monuments. Paul says I don't know what that means. Player says don't worry about it. What do you draw? Paul says cats. Mom. I don't know, stuff. I probably shouldn't be talking to you. Dad won't like it. Player says you're probably right. I'll go. Until later, Paul. And hey, keep drawing. Alright. Paul says I will. Bye. Pet stock, else. Player says glass windows. They must pet stock, else. Else says good morning. Ah. Forgive me, I've forgotten your name. Player says Andreas Mailer, master artist. Else says oh, a master at such a young age? It's, option 1 of 2. Well, I admit, I'm not quite a master yet, still finishing my masterpiece. Else says what is, that like? Option 1 of 2. Fulfilling a dream. Option 2 of 2. Else says ah, to live a dream. Option 1 of 2. You can. You have the right, just like anyone. Else says to do what? I've my family to care for. Lenhart. Paul, my sweet angel. The mill. Option 1 of 2. Oh, I apologize, we didn't even get properly introduced. You must be Else Mullerin? Else says yes, that's me. I heard Clara and Eva had an artist boarding with them. That must be very exciting. Option 1 of 2. They've treated me very well. Else says perhaps Eva more than Clara? Oh. I only meant, living on a farm, among the... Isn't it very lively? Option 1 of 3. Only when Peter starts raving about the miller's toll. Option 2 of 3. Only when ill Peter wakes in the night and can't find the chamber pot. Player says Ursula brings some joy to the household, though. Else says such a lovely little girl. Option 1 of 2. I talked to your son, Paul. He seemed like a good kid. Else says Paul is darling. But I pray the Lord may someday bless us with a daughter. Lenhart says Else. Have you finished with your gabble? There's work that needs doing. Else says oh no. I'm sorry, I have to get to my labors. Player says of course. I apologize if I've bothered you. Until later, Mistress Mullerin. Else says until then. Church and Druckers. Mill. Franz Bauer and Widow Kemperin. Franz Bauer and Widow Kemperin. Church and Drucker. Town Commons. Church and Druckers. Franz Bauer House. Cot. Cot says hello, Master Mailer. I'm sorry to cause you trouble, but have you seen Martin recently? He wasn't feeling well, so I let him sleep until prime. But when I came to check on him, he was gone. Option 1 of 2. I saw him Thursday morning. Option 2 of 2. Player says I did see Martin running through the meadow, but this is a delicate situation, and I'm not sure how I should handle it. Option 1 of 2. I didn't get a chance to speak with him, and I don't know what he was up to. Option 2 of 2. The boy is clearly trouble. The people in town do not think well of him. Option 1 of 2. I didn't get a chance to speak with him, and I don't know what he was up to. Player says it could be entirely innocent. But if I tell Cot that I saw him fleeing the Abbey. Option 1 of 2. She might think her son killed Lawrence. Option 2 of 2. She might think I think her son killed Lawrence. Option 1 of 2 that could cause her undue stress. Option 2 of 2. Option 1 of 2 it probably wasn't even Martin who did it. Option 2 of 2 even if it was Martin who killed Lawrence. Option 1 of 3 he doesn't strike me as the murdering type. Option 2 of 3 still. Option 3 of 3 damn it, I wish I'd never seen him. Option 2 of 3 still. Caught. Option 1 of 2 I saw him Thursday morning. Player says he ran through the meadow while I was on my way to the Abbey at crime. Caught says but, he said he was sick. And what was he doing in the meadow? He hardly ever goes out there. It always makes him sneeze. Option 1 of 2 he seemed to be running from the Abbey. Player says why do you ask? Caught says he has a history of making poor decisions. Player says like stealing? Baron Rothvogel's manservant believes Martin may have stolen some of the Lord's rings. Caught says Lord have mercy. That must be where he's gone, to sell them. Oh, Martin, how could you? Option 1 of 2 do you know where he's likely to have gone? Option 2 of 2 is it? Option 1 of 2. Option 2 of option 1 of 2 do you know where? Caught says the last time he ran off, it was to Innsbruck. But I don't know. I don't know. He could be anywhere. What if he is attacked on the road? Option 1 of 2 I'm sure he'll be alright. Caught says I pray to God that you are right. I'm sorry. This is not your trouble. Thank you for speaking to me. Option 1 of 3 was there something else? Caught says I don't want to impose. If it wouldn't be too much trouble, please let me know if you see Martin. I'm so worried for him. Option 1 of 2, of course Caught. Caught says thank you, Master Mailer. I look forward to seeing you at the Spinning Bee, and Brigida. Brigida says I would wish you a good day, Andreas, but I fear that would be a lie. Option 1 of 2 the Baron Rothvogel was murdered at the Abbey, have you heard? Brigida says heaven above. By who? Surely not one of the brothers. Option 1 of 2 an elder brother was found with a knife, but I don't believe it was him. Option 2 of 2 I'm not. Brigida says, oh, Lord. Martin, you couldn't have. Option 1 of 2 I saw him fleeing the Abbey Thursday morning, right after Baron Rothvogel was murdered. Option 1 of 2 I saw him fleeing the Abbey Thursday. Option 2 of 2 do you think Martin could have? Brigida says no. No. There is a storm cloud over Martin, but it rains only on him. He would never hurt someone. I can't imagine it. Option 1 of 2 but he has stolen from people. Option 2 of 2 you must admit. Brigida says it does. I know, he has made many mistakes, but he's never hurt anyone. Not me, not his mother. Not the animals. Even if many in town don't speak highly of him, I know in my heart he is a good man. Please believe me. Option 1 of 2 I just want to understand who might be responsible for the Baron's murder. Option 1 of 2 and Martin seems the most likely suspect at the moment. Option 2 of 2 and for what it's worth. Brigida says I understand. Thank you for hearing me out. I should probably get back to my chores. France will be angry if he sees me shirking.
This is gonna be one of the church deacons.
Or talking to an unmarried man. Option 1 of 2, of course. God willing, Martin will come home soon. Brigida says he will. I must trust in Providence. Be well, Andreas. Player says be well, Brigida. France says hey Mailer. You seen my son? Option 1 of 2 I saw him running from the Abbey Thursday morning, actually. France says that fucking rat. That layabout was asleep when I went into the fields. He told his mother he was sick. He say anything to you? Like where he was going? Option 1 of 2 he told me to eat shit, actually. France says god damn it, how many time have I told him, growling. Must be his mother's influence. He sure as shit didn't learn that behavior from me. If you see him again, will you tell Cot? She's driving me crazy about it. Option 1 of 2 I'll let Cot know if I run into him. France says good. Until later, Mailer. Player says until then. France, Brigida. Cot. Brigida. Brigida. Cot. France powerhouse. Cot. Brigida. Player says him. Autolia's home. Autolia says well, if it isn't the late Baron's new best friend. Option 1 of 2 nice to see you, 2, Autolia. Option 2 of 2 morning. I'm glad to find you in such a good mood. Option 1 of 2, option 1, option 1, Autolia says pa. Sarcasm, how original. What do you want? You must be bothering me for something. Option 1 of 2 I wanted to ask you some questions about Lawrence Rothvogel's murder. Option 2 of 2 we've never really talked. Autolia says him. No one wants to talk to a surly old widow out of the goodness of their heart. No. I know your type. You want something from me. What is it, boy? Spit it out. Option 1 of 2 can't a young man come to entertain an old widow out of simple Christian charity? Option 2 of 2 if you insist. Autolia says hat. I knew it. Not the first time Perchta answered my call. You want to know what I think? I'm glad he's dead. I hope whoever killed him gets the abbot next. Maybe burns that entire abbey to the ground, and that's all I have to say about it. Option 1 of 3. What did the Baron do to earn your ire? Option 2 of 3. Has the abbot crossed you somehow? Option 3 of 3. The life of an innocent man is at stake, one of the elderly brothers. Can't you spare me a few minutes? Audalai says you think I care about what happens to some old monk? Pa. Idiot. Kill them all, see if I care. Every agent of the church should die.
Wow.
Option 1 of 2. Where is this anger coming from? Is it something I can help with? Option 2 of 2. You shouldn't talk about the church like that. You could bring inquisitors down on Tassing. Option 1 of 2. Where is this anger coming from? Audalai says no. Well, maybe. Don't suppose those skinny arms of yours can hold more than a paintbrush? Option 1 of 2. I'm not so strong as Otto, but I can lift things and reach high places, if that's what you need. Audalai says not often someone offers to help out old Audalaya. Fine. You do some things for me, maybe it'll jog my memory, but it's going to take a while. Lots of things been building up, things I'm too old to do. You got some place to be? Option 1 of 2. I have no other plans. I'm all yours for the morning. Audalai says follow me, then. Audalai says been needing to collect some firewood, but I haven't been able to muster the energy. Option 1 of 2. Let's gather you some sticks, then. Option 2 of 2. Option 1. Audalai says humph. No questions. Audalaya. Audalaya.
Fucking fetch quest. Is this really necessary, man? Just tell the story. You guys are so afraid of it being like boring or not living up to what people want or whatever the fuck. I'm more afraid of the fetch quest. Why am I picking up 5 sticks right now?
Player says most of this felling is for the abbey's renovations and firewood. The town can only gather sticks.
Well,
most of this felling is for the abbey's renovations and firewood. Audalaya. Audalai says there are the trees Otto's been felling for the abbot. Break off that branch there, the big one. Option 1 of 3, if you insist. Option 3 of 3. These trees. Player says I know Audalai feels she's been wronged by the abbey, but the wood does still belong to the abbot. Option 1 of 2. If we're caught stealing it, my investigation into Lawrence's murder. Option 2 of 2. If the abbot finds out I helped Audalai steal from him, he could make finishing my masterpiece difficult. Player says but if I refuse to help Audalaya, she might not tell me what happened between her and Lawrence to make her hate him so. The way she yelled at him the day he arrived, it must have been serious. But serious enough to kill him? Perhaps I can make her see reason. Option 1 of 3, if you insist. Option 2 of 3. Option 3 of 3. These trees belong to the abbot. Option 2 of 3. That's technically poaching. Audalaya. Audalai says you think the abbey doesn't steal from us. The people of Tassing were here before the abbey was. This forest is ours. Just because some piece of paper somewhere says this land belongs to the church, we can't use it. The people who care for it. Option 1 of 4. Christ, alright, I'll get the. Option 2 of 4. What did the abbey do to you to make you hate them? Option 3 of 4. But we have enough. Option 4 of 4. I'm not about to get in trouble with the abbot just so you can have your petty revenge. Option 3 of 4. Option 1 of 2. I'm growing fatigued as it is, and I suspect you've still got more for me to do. Option 2 of 2. I need to save my strength for all the other chores you are going to have me do, remember? Option 1 of 2. I'm growing fatigued as it is, and I suspect you. Option 2 of 2. I need to say. Audalai says humph. You're right about that. It's been too long since I've had someone around to help me, but don't think you've cowed me, boy. The abbey is still a tumor on the skin of this land. Egg, all this shouting's making my back twinge. I can't use all these sticks, they're too big. You need to break them down for me. Option 1 of 2. For a common lady, you certainly have the mien of a noble woman. Option 2 of 2. Sure, Audalai says I need the right side, at a certain length, so break them and forget the leftover scrap. Option 1 of 2. Where should I break them? Option 2 of 2. How long do you need them? Audalai says I'll know it when I see it. Now get snapping, boy. More than that, Andreas Mailer. Bigger. More than that, Andreas Mailer. Bigger. I need these smaller so they'll fit in my hearth, Andreas. That one should do nicely. This one is too small and frail. Just like you, mailer. This one is too small and frail. Just like you, mailer. It's too short. Maybe I should get a real man to help me. This one is too small and frail. Just like you, mailer. This one is too small and frail. Just like you, mailer. Ha. None of these are the right size. I guess I'll now come help me back at the house. Option 1 of 3, of course. Lead on. Option 2 of 3. Are you sure this will be enough wood? What if there's a cold snap? Player says perhaps we should get more. Audeli says it will have to be, won't it? Unless you mean to come around again. I'm an old woman living alone, and summer is coming. Soon I'll only need fuel for cooking, not warmth. Don't worry yourself, boy. I'll be fine. Option 1 of 2 if you say so. But I worry about you living alone. Option 2 of 2 as you like, though I admit. Option 1 of 2 if you say France Bauer and Widow Kemperin. Adelia. Adelia says I have some mementos from Rannick here. They've gone crooked, and I can't reach. Could you hang them for me, Andreas? Option 1 of 2 easy enough. Adelia says and please, be careful with my pictures. Some are very fragile, I would hate to lose them to your carelessness. The frames on the wall, Andreas. If you could. Adelia says think you could hang those papers on the table? I can't reach. There you go. That looks all right. Thank you for hanging those. Just one thing. Remove the cross. Option 1 of 2. Are you sure? Option 2. Option 1 of 2. Option 1. Adelia says don't you gainsay me, boy. Option 1 of 3 all right. I guess, if you're sure. Option 3 of 3 that sack. Player says what Adelia is asking of me is sacrilegious. Option 1 of 2 she could be forced to face a church inquisitor if someone found out. I might as well simply for aiding her. Option 2 player says and whatever she says, I don't believe it's the cross that's her problem. There is something more there I've yet to uncover. Taking the cross down might only cause her more pain in the long run. But if I anger her, I might miss out on information about Lawrence's death. Perhaps I could convince her to put it somewhere out of sight, so it won't torment her. That might be enough. Option 1 of 3 all right. I guess. Option 2 of 3 what do you plan to do with the cross? Adelia says destroy it, of course. The church never did anything for me and took nearly all I had. Why should I be made to venerate it? Player says what did the church take from you? Adelia says what does it matter to you? Just take the thing down like I asked. Option 1 of 3 all right. I guess, if you're sure. Option 2 of 3 perhaps I could just move the cross to where you can't see it. Player says I understand that you are angry and hurting now, but you might regret destroying it later. Would your husband have wanted you to destroy the cross? It blessed the home you shared together. Adelia says my Rennig. He made it, do you know? It always reminds me of him, for better and for perhaps you could move it somewhere out of view. That would be all right. Player says I'm assuming she didn't mean for me to hang this note. Player says remember your husband. The pain he carried, like Job. The red bird flies. Madden's chapter. Where did this note come from, Adelia? Adelia says no idea. I found it on the table the night before Rothvogel died. I can barely read it. The writing's too fancy. Keep it if you want. It means nothing to me. Adelia.
Get away, get it.
Adelia says I've got one last thing for you to do, if you're willing. A legal document, I need you to read it. The words are too small for my old eyes, and my reading's not so good. Option 1 of 3 nothing would delight me more, Adelia. Adelia says humph. Of that I have no doubt. The papers are on the table just there. Player says let me see here.
I love the calligraphy.
Standard introduction. This document shows, etc., etc. Here we are, the meat of the document. It says, Due to the recent death of Rannig Kemper, his lack of heirs to inherit, your inability to pay fees on the land. Your property is forfeit to the church. Option 1 of 3 that said, this is all very suspect. I did not complete my law degree, but I smell something rotten in this letter. Player says there are questionable assertions in here. Do you have any documentation on Rannig's lease agreement with the Abbey? Adelai says no. Never seen anything like that. I didn't think the lease was with Rannig. My family's lived here for over 100 years. Player says if that's true, it's quite likely the lease is with one of your father's ancestors, not Rannig. If that lease allows for partition of the land, you would have the ability to allow others to farm here in exchange for payments to you. Adelai says Johann and Franz Bauer never would. They want this land for themselves. Option 1 of 2 maybe if you talk sweet to ill Peter you could convince the Gertners to take it on. Adelai says ha. All my honeys turned to vinegar, boy, but maybe you're right about the family. I've never had any problems with the Gertners. Player says in any case, it's clear that the Abbey is not being truthful about the existing lease on this property. It seems they used Rannig's death as an opportunity to try to change the existing lease to something more profitable. Adelai says yes, Rannig's death. This is all the fault of that monster, Lorenz Rothvogel. If he were alive, I'd kill him myself. May he boil in hell for all eternity. Option 1 of 2 your hatred of the church. Did you know this would happen? Option 2 of 2 I think it's time you tell me what happened with the Baron. Option 1 of 2 your hatred of the church. Did you know this would happen? Option 1 of 2 your hatred of the church. Option 2 of 2 I think it's time you tell me what happened with the Baron. Adelai says Rannig, my husband, he caught that Rothvogel devil riding through our property and told him, rightly, to leave. The Baron beat my Rannig for it, beat him so savagely that he took a cane to walk. Even his breathing pained him. Never could breathe deep so long as he lived, which wasn't long at all. Option 1 of 2 good God. Option 2 of 2 that doesn't. Option 1 of 2 good God. Adelai says that Baron was the worst kind of man, careless and cruel. He knew he could beat my Rannig and suffer no consequences, so he did. We were not even so low as animals to him. We were furniture. And I knew after Rannig died the church would try to take what little I had left. This document only confirms it. All because of Lorenz Rothvogel. Option 1 of 2 you know, that's a pretty compelling reason for you to have killed him. Player says you said yourself you'd do it if you could. Who's to say you haven't already? Adelai says finally, some honesty from you. This was the real purpose of your visit all along. I'm an old woman, Andreas. Even walking from my bed to the door pains me. How could I kill a man in his prime? Not that it matters. I'm sure I'll take the blame for it anyway, just like I'm blamed for every runny nose and thrown horseshoe around here. The people in town can't wait for me to die, and the Abbey vultures hate me for my contempt of them. None of it matters. I don't care what happens to me anymore. Thank you for your help, boy. You're the only one who's come calling since my Rannig passed, do you know? Now get out. I need to lie down. Option 1 of 2, of course. I was glad to help. Adelai's home. Player says I should find someone to eat with. Adelai's home. Adelai's home. Player says home. These wood carvings are quite curious. Johann Bauer Farm. Hetty, Johann Bauer House. Hetty. Hetty says hey, Andreas. Do you have dinner plans? You should join us for a meal. Option 1 of 2 I'd like that. Lead the way. Option 2 of 2 maybe another. Hetty says if you say so. Hey, Andreas. Do you have dinner plan? Option 1 of 2 I'd like. Option 2 of 2 maybe another time. Hetty says if you say so. Johann Bauer Hans. Hans says hey, Andreas. Player says how's it going, Hans? Keeping busy in the fields? Hans says I guess. Player says. Do you like it? Hans says what? Player says farming. Hans says I never really thought about it. Dad says it has to get done whether I like it or not. Player says what do you think about, then? Hans says. Uncle Franz said Brigitte might come help with the laundry today. Player says she's Martin's wife, right? Hans says she is. Nicer than Veronica, anyway, I wish Brigitte lived here instead of her. Option 1 of 2 well, you have a good time thinking about your cousin's wife. Option 2 player says until later, Hans. Hans says bye. Johann. Johann says Andreas. You got dinner plans? Option 1 of 2 kind of you to offer, Johann. Option 2 of 2 maybe another time. Johann says sure thing. Be safe, Johann. Town Commons, Gertner Farm. Bill Peter says God bless Peter. Gertner House. Big Yerg. Town Commons. Gertner Farm. Central Town. Alban Bakery. Gret says bless you, Andreas. Are you hungry? Have dinner with us. Option 1 of 2. That's kind of you to ask. I'd love to. Gret says lovely. I'll lay out a fine spread for us. Ah, it's been so long since we've had a guest who isn't Father Thomas. He'll be joining us today, too. Thomas says bless us, the Lord, and these, your gifts, which we are about to receive from your bounty. Through Christ,
This is a
our
very
Lord.
Christian
Amen.
game. This is the most Christian game I've ever played, by far. It is named Pentiments. I got nothing against Christianity. I think it's a good force on the planet. I think it's a bad force on the planet. I think it's both good and bad, like everything else in life. And I think it has goods and bads. And I think it has ups and downs, like everything else in life. And I think it's good, that they're there. And I think it's bad that they're there. And I wish we didn't need them. And I wish we never had. I'm sorry. I wish we. Wish we always had them. I wish them always to be around.
Ulrich says. Anna says. Gret says. Amen. Player says. Amen. Ulrich says. Thank you for joining us, Father Thomas. It is an honor to have you at our table. Thomas says. Please, Ulrich. There's no need to stand on ceremony. You know I enjoy sharing a meal with you and your family, especially when Gret serves her rye. Gret says. God bless you, Father. You are too kind. Ulrich says. How has Peter been lately, Andreas? Option 1 of 2. Bad mood, but nothing unusual for him. Option 2 of 2. Fine. Option 1 of 2. Bad. Ulrich says. Most of the peasants are in a bad mood. Between the miller and the abbot's taxes, they're in a hard place. More than a few of the families are having difficulty paying their bills. I can offer them credit, but I worry about the town's future when times are so hard for them. Option 1 of 2. The Gürtners are struggling to pay their taxes since the abbot raised them. Player says it's made more difficult because the abbot won't allow them to pay in kind with their crops. Ulrich says between the abbot's taxes and Lenhart's fees at the mill, they're struggling. If I can give them some relief, I must provide it joyfully. Player says say nothing. Gret says you have a kind heart, Ulrich. Perhaps too kind, though I do love that about you. Thomas says should this really be your concern, Ulrich? If the peasants are unhappy with their taxes or the miller's fee, they can propose a change. Option 1 of 3. Under Bavarian law, they would have no ground. It would amount to little more than a complaint with no legal weight. Thomas says well, I suppose that is true. Well, in any case, is the miller not entitled to recompense for his labors? Is the abbot not entitled to taxes as the rightful lord of the land? This is the way it has always been, will always be. Ulrich says Lenhart takes more than is fair. His behavior is not Christ-like. Gret says and you will be the one to judge him, Ulrich Alban. Will you judge the abbot as well? Ulrich says this is no matter to tease about. The peasants are suffering. The causes are plain to see. Thomas says your concern is admirable, Ulrich, but take care in how you speak about this. May I suggest that you speak to him on the peasants' behalf? Don't make accusations, but share your concerns. I have not found him to be an unreasonable man. Ulrich says with all respect, Father, I have been dealing with Lenhart Muller and his father for over 20 years. I know the character of the Muller men. Kindness and reason are not in their nature. Thomas says God's love is within all of us, Ulrich, even Lenhart Muller. Andreas, don't you think Ulrich should try reasoning with him? Option 1 of 2. It's worth a try. Why not? Thomas says not the vigorous support I was hoping for, but it will do. Thank you.
It's weird that I'm this hungry.
Ulrich says it's not that easy. I mean no disrespect, but neither of you can understand what the peasants are going through. Gret says oh. Did I mention that Sister Matilda came by today to buy bread for the sisters? She had a dark cloud over her. Option 1 of 2. I think the Baron's death has upset many of the brothers and sisters in the Abbey. Gret says I can only imagine. A murder that violent, especially of a nobleman. Sister Matilda seems so strong. I don't think I've seen her like this before. Option 1 of 2. Do you speak to her often? Gret says yes, when she comes to buy bread. The abbey can make some of their own, but we provide the rest. Ulrich says she walks with that Bohemian monk, Brother Wojslav. He makes her laugh. Gret says, oh, my heart. That's lovely. Thomas says it's not appropriate. Gret says, but father, surely friendship between a brother and sister united in Christ is all right, isn't it? Thomas says not if they are sworn to celibacy, no. Troubling. Perhaps I should speak to Father Gernot about it. Option 1 of 2. Clear throat. Thomas says, well, that was an excellent meal, Gret. Thank you so much for inviting me into your home. Gret says, of course, Father. We're always honored to have you. Gret says, as you say, I suppose. Well, I should get back to the counter. The Baron ladies will be by for their bread soon. Option 1 of 2. Thank you for a seat at your table. Ulrich says it was our pleasure. Gret. Player says time to get back to work.
It's a ripoff of Disco Elysium.
Anna.
Done on a much different scale.
Central Town.
But I'd say it's as good as Disco for
Central
different
Town.
reasons.
Ulrich. Central Town.
Well, it's not as deep and good as Disco at all,
Ulrich.
but it's
Central Town.
It's a different attempt at something beautiful like Disco.
Central Town.
I bet this game gets
North
a
Town.
really good rating.
Steinauer House, Lucky, Petschlau, Church and Druckers.
So what now? I don't know. I gotta look
Journal.
at the journal. I got no idea what it is you want. Apparently I must be severely welcome to
Petschlau. Lucky. Lucky says hello, Andreas. Something you need? Option 1 of 2. How are you doing, Lucky? We don't talk much. Option player says I hope to ask you a few questions about Baron Rothvogel. Lucky says no. Option 1 of 2. No. But it will only take a moment. Option Lucky says I don't want to. You are a grown man, that should be reason enough for you. Player says I saw you shouting at the Baron when he arrived in Tassing. What was that about? Lucky says get it through your pebble-stuffed head, I'm not talking about Rothvogel. Option 1 of 3. A man is dead, Lucky, and another's life hangs in the balance. Player says Christ compels us to speak honestly, neighbor to neighbor. Lucky says God damn it, Andreas, I told you to leave me be. Christ has nothing to do with it. Option 1 of 2. Did you kill him, Lucky? Is that why you won't talk about him? Option 2 of 2. Player says Lucky already told me he didn't want to talk about Lawrence. But it's clear they argued over something important, or Lucky wouldn't be so hostile. Lucky is known to be an honest man. Maybe I can push him just a little more. Option 1 of 2. He doesn't seem the type to hold a grudge, right? Option 2 of 2. Though I don't suppose he'll take kindly to my suggesting he's a murderer. Option 1 of 2. He doesn't seem the type to hold a grudge. Option 2 of 2. Though I don't Option 1 of 2. Did you kill him, Lucky? Option 2 of 2. Alright. Lucky says good day, Andreas. Player says he was not being forthright with me, and he seems eager to get away. If I wait here, maybe he'll leave and I can observe his actions. But should I do it now? It will probably take a while. Option 1 of 2. I'll follow Lucky now. Gret says oh dear, is something the matter with the Zimmerman's basin? Player says ah. Nothing going on here. Just having a rest. How are you doing? You're looking well. Very healthy. Gret says oh you, such a flirt. I've been taking a restorative made by that new doctor in town, Werner Stalls. Being a parent is terribly exhausting, you know? Haha, of course you don't, but I'm sure you will someday. Nice man like you. Are the Gertners feeding you enough? You're looking a little thin. Oh, take some of this bread. That should perk you right up. Nothing like bread to fortify the spirit. I'm delivering it to Father Thomas. You know how the father loves his bread. He's quite the bread enthusiast. My favorite customer, haha. You should come by the bakery more often, Andreas. Anna would love to see you. It's so cute when she tries to steal your hat. Option 1 of 3 pardon me, Gret, but I just remembered I left the Gertner's door open. Until later. Option 2 of 3 I'd love to, but can we Option 3 of 3 I have to go. Good day. Option 1 of 3 pardon me, Gret says oh. Of course. Until later. Thomas says Master Mailer. Here you are finally at church, and it's not even Sunday. Option 1 of 2 afternoon. Have you seen Lucky? Option 2 of 2 what can I say, Father Thomas? I missed you, Thomas says humph. You think all of this, your eternal salvation, is a joke? Gret says afternoon, Father Thomas. How's my favorite customer? Thomas says ah, Gret. You know I can't live without my rye. Gret says you are too kind. Please, enjoy it with my well wishes. I should be off. Be well, you too. Lucky says Andreas. What brings you to the church? Option 1 of 2 Lucky. Long time no see. How are you? Option 2 of 2 HAHA. Uh-oh. Option 1 of 2 Lucky. Lucky says have you suffered a head injury in the 10 minutes since we last spoke? Are you following me, Andreas? Option 1 of 3 say nothing. Option 2 of 3 laugh nervously. Option 1 Lucky says god damn it, Andreas, don't play dumb with me. Thomas says Lucky, leave the man be. He and I were talking about the church. All is well. Now tell me, how's my wall? Lucky says Gur. The damage is not difficult to repair, I can do it next week. And I can put the fallen stones back up now. Thomas says that would be marvelous. I'm sure the lady would appreciate it, too. But please, don't risk yourself. Get some younger men to help you. Option 1 of 3 need a hand, Lucky. Old Otto says afternoon Father Thomas, Andreas. Lucky, see you soon. Don't work too hard, eh? Thomas says even at his age, Lucky is quite able. Only Big Jurg can match his strength. Thank you for your labors, Lucky. Option 1 of 2 scurry off after Lucky. Option 2 of 2 tell me, Player says Father Thomas might know where the men go fishing. But if I ask him, he'll know I actually am following Lucky, which he could tell Lucky later. Lucky would be unhappy about that, especially since he already believes I'm following him. And it's not a good idea to get on the bad side of a man who's so strong. I doubt I could hold my own against him. Option 1 of 2 scurry off after Lucky. Option 2 player says I didn't know there were many fish there. Thomas says I've heard salmon and trout gather at the base of the falls. Yes. I'm not much a fisherman myself. A bit squeamish, you understand. Why do you ask? Surely you're not really following Lucky. He's an honorable man, Andreas. Option 1 of 2 sorry, I have to go. Option 2 of 2 Option 1 of 2 sorry. Thomas says oh, go with Christ. Oh, goodbye. Very unusual man. Player says Ga. Lucky says what was that?
What?
Option 1 of 2 good God, those poor fish. Option 2 of 2 I suppose it's better than letting them suffer. Lucky says until later, Otto.
Because I never wanted to tail this guy. I just sort of went off like that.
Player says Tassing's old salt mine, how the town made money before the Imperial Road opened up. Player says 2 innocents? That's strange. Are there 2 people are buried here? Children, perhaps, could they be? Lucky's children? But why would they be buried outside of the churchyard, then? It's almost like someone was trying to hide them. Oh. And he left a note with the flowers. Remember the girl. 1 grave for 2 innocents. The red bird flies. Matins. Very similar to the other note I found, as well as the note Brother Florian found with the Baron's body. Someone was trying to lure Lucky to the chapter house to kill Baron Rothvogel. It remains to be seen if he did. Player says damn, I've lost Lucky. This grave does seem important to him. But could it be motive enough for him to kill Lawrence? I won't know until I figure out who's buried here. Player says I should find someone to eat with. Waterfall. Forest. Meadow. Smokey's home. Church and Druckers. Thomas says God be with you. Andrea, Mill, Franz Bauer and Widow Kemperin. Drucker House. Central Town Commons. Otto says did you have supper plans, Andreas? Want to join me and Dad at our table? Option 1 of 2 I'd appreciate that, thank you. Otto says let's get going, then. Otto says bless us, O Lord, and these, your gifts, which we are about to receive from your bounty. Through Christ, our Lord, Amen. Old Otto says Amen. Player says Amen. Otto says how are you feeling today, Dad? Old Otto says hand's been killing me. Back's been killing me. Goddamn knee's been killing me. You want some advice, boys? Don't get old. Option 1 of 2 I hope you find some relief soon, Old Otto. Old Otto says only relief coming my way's death, I suspect. A farmer's fate, ages you beyond your years. Just look at my boy here. Works too hard, he does, but what choice does he have? Otto says none, with the abbot breathing down my neck. I tell you he wants me to replace the roof on his house next. Option 1 of 2 didn't you just replace the one in the scriptorium? Option 2 of Otto says his forest, don't forget. He certainly won't let me, nor the rest of the townsfolk. The way that bastard Gernot orders me around, you'd think I'm one of his little monks. Old Otto says he works you like a dog and says it's for the glory of the Lord. It's not right. Option 1 of 2 but the work does need to be done. Option 2 of 2, option 2 of 2 it's not, I agree. Otto says easy enough for you to say when it's my work that keeps you warm when you are scribbling away in that scriptorium. Apologies, that was not Christian of me to put that on you. But neither am I wrong.
Wow.
Old Otto says the abbot's bad, but the miller might be worse. That shithead Lenhart's been screwing us for years with his toll. Player says I've never spoken to him. Is he really so bad? Otto says he's worse even than you know. Or will ever have to know, being a visitor, for which you should thank the Lord. Imagine your only income for the year was in the wheat you could grow in the summer, and the miller determines how much it costs you to grind into flour. What if you have a poor season? What if the miller raises his toll? What if everyone has a great season and there's too much goddamn flour to make any money with it? The farmers are at the mercy of the weather, the church, and the miller. 2 of those are beyond their power to influence. But the miller is their neighbor. He sees them struggle. He should help them. But not Lenhart Muller. He only takes more. Option 1 of 3 fine, but... Option 2 of 3 I hadn't considered it like that. Old Otto says Lord willing, Lenhart will meet justice, in this life or the next. Option 1 of 2 Lord willing. Old Otto says onto more pleasant pastures. You see any of those nuns while you were working, Otto? Otto says Dad. Old Otto says I remember that Cecilia woman being pleasant to look at, back when I worked up there. Option 1 of 2. Do you pay much attention to the nuns, Old Otto? Old Otto says oh, I pay attention to everything now that I can't work. Lots to see in the world. Like, nuns. Option 1 of 2. Mother Cecilia would not appreciate being spoken about that way. Old Otto says I don't mean anything by it. Just using the eyes the Lord gave me in the way he intended men to use them.
Yeah, he's got a point.
Other pretty sisters up there as well. Sometimes they catch the wrong man's eye. Shame what happened to that one a while back. Glad she came back, though. Player says what happened? Which sister? Otto says it's a sad story, and not our place to share, least of all because we don't have the details. Mother Cecilia would know, not that she's likely to tell you. Old Otto says handsome woman, Cecilia. Bet that big veil of hers is full of secret. Player says she hinted that the Baron had hurt one of the sisters years ago. She wouldn't tell me anything else. Otto says that figures. She probably doesn't want to any of the Abbey's dirty secrets getting out into the world. Player says I think she knows something about the Baron's death. Old Otto says she keeps a keen eye over that Abbey, that's for certain. Not much happens there that she doesn't know about. Otto says now if you want to hear all of Tassing's little secrets, you should go to the spinning bee. Old Otto says ugh. That gaggle. You can hear them cackling from here. Option 1 of 2. I was invited to attend. Should I go? Otto says sure, if you're interested. I always get a kick out of it. Old Otto says not just cause Eva's there. Otto says certainly doesn't hurt. Old Otto says hey, son, I need to lay down. Why don't you say goodbye to your friend here? Otto says sorry, Andreas, the old man needs his rest. Option 1 of 2. Rest well Old Otto. Old Otto says Hoof don't know what you mean. Ain't any old men in this house. Player says I should get some sleep, or break into the library. Town comments.
Let's see, sleep or break in the library, I don't know. In a video game, I'm guessing probably sleep, right?
Franz Bauer and Widow Kemperin. Church and Druckers, Franz Bauer House. Franz Bauer House, Church and Druckers. Mill. Meadow. Meadow. Mill. Forest. Lower Abbey. Upper Abbey. Church. Cloister. Infirmary. Chapter House. Monastery Loquarium. Large Garden. Courtyard and Lavatorium. Refectory. Church. Player says oh, shit. Matthew is the Abbey CIRCator. If he sees me, he'll kick me out. I have to keep out of sight until he's passed. Good thing he can't see well. Cloister. Crypt. Tower. Church. Crypt. Tower. Dormitory. Old Bailey. Sacristy. Old Bailey. Dormitory. Tower. Crypt. Library. 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 Live player says if I go up these stairs, it's going to take a while to find the records I need. I'll lose some time tomorrow morning unless I turn back now. Option 1 of 2. Enter the library. Read. Player says what's this? Player says to Herbus Cambrii. The writer is Cadphilas of Salopia. I don't believe I've heard of him. Mugwort and Butcher's Broom. I'm not familiar with their properties, but they sound extraordinary. A beautifully illustrated book and the author appears to be speaking from his own personal experiences. A wonderful hidden treasure for the abbey. Read. Player says, what do we have here? Player says, a bifolium from the Mysteria Astra. I've read a number of treatises on astronomy, but I've never heard of this one. Seems rudimentary, explaining the connection between astrological signs and the elements, and their basic relationship to alchemy. Each sign is governed by one of the 4 elements. Cancer, Scorpio, and Pisces are the water signs, Capricorn, Taurus, and Virgo are earth signs, and so on. It cuts off there. The next page is about something else entirely. Sister Illuminata must be trying to reconstruct the larger text. Those 2 pages were interesting enough, I suppose, but quite basic. Wait, that's the connection between the astrological symbols on Ferenc's cipher and the elemental symbols on the Volvel. If I turn the wheel to the element that matches the sign, I can decipher the note he left. Excellent. Read. Player says this is most curious. Player says Historia de Labyrintho Librorum. Option 1 of 4. I've heard tales of some incredible libraries across Christendom, but a labyrinth? Option 2 of 4. Option 3 of 4. I believe a Bolognese professor told me a tale about such a place in Piedmont. Player says somewhat hard to believe, to be honest. That old man was quite a storyteller, I must admit. Player says this looks promising. The familiars of the Sisters of Kearsarge Abbey. Yes. Player says Mother Catherine was the first to enter records, it looks like. Almost 50 years ago. Sister Hildegard, from the Goldrick family in Ravensburg. Quite wealthy. It looks like she became the prioress after Mother Catherine. Sister Cecilia. Adele, wait, she's from the Welser family. They're one of the most powerful families in Augsburg. It looks like her family donates a lot of money to Kearsarge every year, more than my family season 10. Sister Gertrude, from Hof. The herbalist, yes. Her father is an apothecary. That explains it. Matilda, Oblate. Yes, the nun's cellarer. She came from Kempton. Merchant family. They donated pigments to use in the scriptorium. Quite thoughtful. I'll have to thank them if I ever get the chance. Oh, this should be interesting. Sister Illuminata. Named Angeline, from the Capoxi family in Perugia. It looks like they have some connection to Kearsarge through an old abbot, Rudolph. Her family donates money to the abbey every year as well. This note says Sister Matilda left the abbey for several months. Why would she go to a hermitage? Seems strange that she's the only entry with such a note. The dates, 3 years ago. This was just before Father Matthias died. Which means it was around the time Baron Rothvogel visited. This has to be it. Matilda must be the nun the Baron harmed on his last visit. I should talk to Mother Cecilia again, and maybe Sister Matilda as well. Sophie, from Burgitz. Her family is poor, but they donated flour. Lisbeth, Oblate. She's from Utrecht. It looks like she had an eventful life before coming here. Married with a child, both died. Her merchant family has some connection to Kearsarge through the Kaufmans of Rothenburg Bieder Tauber. Sister Marguerite. Oh, the blind girl who assists Gertrude. She went blind because of failed surgery on her cataracts. Wealthy peasant family, they donated wool and a pasture in Kreml. Sister Zidana, this should be good. Ahead. They donate a fortune to the abbey. No wonder Mother Cecilia and the abbot let her behave as she does. Player says what in a W.
Oh. Gay moments.
Shit. Option 1 of 3 I'll break for the stairs. They can't possibly catch me. Option 2 of 3 I'll talk to them. Option 3 of 3 all right. I just need to wait for Rutger and Matthew to leave. Player says what am I going to do now?
This guy just started making out. What the fuck, dude?
Option 1 of 3 just wait for them to finish, then leave.
I mean, it's
It
okay.
can't
I
take
just...
that long, can it?
Wait, I mean, was it necessary? The kind of a gay moment, the gay moment in the monastery, just like really weird. He hinted at it. They're like, there's a lot of foreshadowing in this. Like you kind of go like, was their brothers having sex? And they're like, oh my god.
Option 2 of 3 you should speak with them openly, in good faith, as men of reason. Option 3 of 3 run for it. Go. Option 1 of 3 just wait for. Option 1 of 2 I don't want to fall asleep on this cold floor. Player says if I can't get out of here before the sisters arrive in the morning, it might be even worse. Option 1 of 2 it may not be awful if Zidana finds me first. Maybe we're friends? Option 2 of 2 Sister Illuminata will certainly not be amused. Option 1 of 2 Player says I can't tell with her. Option 1 of 3 I'll break for the stairs. They can't possibly catch me. Option 2 of 3. Option 3 of 3 all right. I just need to wait for Rutger and Matthew to leave. Just a little patience.
What?
Joseph says Andreas. When are you coming home? Player says Dad. I'll be home soon. Option 1 of 3 I just need to finish this commission for the Abbey. Option 2. Option 3 Joseph says good. I'm finishing a commission for the Imhoffs. You can see it when you get back. And then you can show me your commissions when you open your workshop. Player says yes, of course. Joseph says you are not going to quit this like you quit university, are you? Option 1 of 2 no, of course not. Option 2 Joseph says. Player says no, of course not. Joseph says good. If it weren't for the work I did for the rector, you never would have had the opportunity. Most people never get a second chance after they throw something away like that. Option 1 of 2 I know, Dad. Option 2 of 2 Option 1 Joseph says we'll see you when you get back. Player says sure. Alright. Sabine says. Player says oh, it's you. Sabine says. Player says I only have the picture of you, the one my brother Daniel made. I really don't have any idea what you are like. Option 1 of 3 are you really that pretty? Option 2 of 3 do you really want to get married to stranger? Option 3 of 3 so. Sabine says please don't imagine me telling you in your own mind. Player says why? Sabine says you'll imagine I'm wonderful or imagine I'm horrible. Either way, it's not fair to me, is it? Option 1 of 3 the painted you. Option 2 of 3 the Option Sabine says to none of us. Player says fair. Sabine says I'll see you soon, Andreas. For real, I mean. Player says I suppose that's true. Until then. Prester John says welcome back, Andreas. It has been too long since you have graced this court with your presence. Player says apologies, your majesty. My mind has been preoccupied by a tragedy at Kearsarge Abbey. Prester John says what manner of tragedy? Player says the murder of a nobleman, a close friend of the Prince Bishop of Freising. My friend, Brother Pierrot, is the abbot's only suspect. I know that he could not have done it. Socrates says how do you know? Examine your assumptions, my son.
This got odd.
Player says in addition to having no motive and violence not being part of his character, he's not physically capable of the act. He is of limited strength and has a palsy in his hand that makes holding a paintbrush difficult. It's inconceivable that he would have the strength and resolve to kill the Baron with a blow to the head. Saint Grobian says a whole lot of inconceivable shit happens on this hell of an earth, Andreas. Option 1 of 2 I just don't believe he could have done it. There has to be a better explanation. Beatrice says so what do you intend to do about it? Player says when I'm brought before the Archdeacon, I'll tell him what I know about other people who had motives to kill the Baron. I have to believe he'll see there are much more likely suspects than Pierrot. Socrates says why have you taken this task upon yourself? Option 1 of 3 I have to save Brother Pierrot's life. He has no one else to help him. Option 2 of 3 I want to find the real killer. Socrates says the Archdeacon must be a man of learning. Do you think he is incapable of discovering the truth? Saint Grobian says some of the dumbest shitheads in Christendom are judges.
Oh,
For all Andreas knows, this Archdeacon might not be able to tell his head from his asshole. Player says that's my fear. That no matter what evidence I present, Hero's fate may already be sealed. Saint Grobian says why does that shit for brains abbot care about the death of a useless fart like Lawrence Rothvogel, anyway? Option 1 of 4 you are being too hard on the abbot. Option 2 of 4 the Baron head. Option 3 of 4 well, I can't disagree with your assessment of them. Option 4 of 4 powerful people get upset when other powerful people are murdered. This could threaten the existence of the abbey. Option 3, Saint Grobian says I didn't ask you to agree with me. If you can't think for yourself, you're no better than them, asshole. Beatrice says in any case, Andreas' ability to prevent Piro's death depends on the judgment of the Archdeacon. Wise or foolish, corrupt or just, the Archdeacon will be the first and possibly final arbiter of Piro's guilt. Andreas must win the Archdeacon to his side using the tools favored by men such as him. Option 1 of 4 reason. Option 4 of 4 honesty. Option 3 of 4 option. Prester John says despite your talent, you are merely an artist. He has been invested with power by the Prince Bishop of Freising. You have no authority with him. Option 1 of 3 reason. Option 2 of 3 honesty. Socrates says you must be honest in all things, Andreas, but many are not willing to accept the truth, and the cost of honesty can be high. Option 1 of 2 reason. Saint Grobian says Pa. When's the last time you met a man who was truly ruled by reason? Player says wisdom. Beatrice says wisdom can be shared, but the audience may not comprehend it. Player says if reason, wisdom, authority, and honesty cannot triumph, what am I left with? Beatrice says hope. Saint Grobian says lies. Socrates says truth. Prester John says above all, faith in Providence. Well, what do you plan to tell the Archdeacon, Andreas? Player says there were other people in Kearsarge and Tassing who had motives to kill the Baron. The widow Kemp Baron despised Lawrence for maiming her late husband. Socrates says maimed how? Player says the Baron beat him savagely following an argument about trespassing on the Kempers' farm. His injuries were so severe that they never truly healed, and he needed a cane to walk. He died less than a year ago. Adelia is certain it's because of the wounds he received that day. Prester John says why did the two quarrel? Player says my understanding is that it was simply an argument about trespass that got out of hand. Beatrice says and now I suppose that she will lose their home. My apologies, his home. Prester John says for what reason? Should an aged widow not live out her remaining days in peace? Saint Grobian says she should, but she won't. She didn't squeeze out any little Kempers for old Rennig, so away the house. Beatrice says yes, because women must fight to own property. We exist on the sufferance of men. Option 1 of 3 well, we all must abide by the same law. Option 3 of 3 that's an extreme view. Women are not prisoners of their husbands or their sons. Beatrice says or their priests. Their magistrates? Their pope? Their emperor?
No.
Prester John says the doors to power are locked and men hold all the keys. Beatrice says what is a world full of locked doors if not a prison? Saint Grobian says haha. Oh, she's got you by the balls now, boy. Socrates says you have established a motive for the widow, Andreas, but there is another matter that requires inquiry. While women and men are equal in most natures, women are weaker in strength. How could a woman of Adelia's age overpower a healthy man like the Baron? Prester John says I wondered at that myself. Have you found anything that she could have used to kill the Baron? Player says no, not yet. Prester John says if you wish to convince the Archdeacon that an old woman killed the Baron, you will need more than just a motive. Are there any others you suspect? Player says Prior Ferenc feared the Baron would report his occult interests to inquisitors. Socrates says how so? Player says Prior Ferenc and the Baron shared a fascination with the occult texts. The Baron was pressuring the Prior into performing a ritual for him while he was visiting Kearsarge. When Ferenc refused, the Baron threatened to turn him into the Inquisition. Socrates says how did you come by this knowledge? Player says I found written evidence. A letter from Ferenc to the Baron in which he discusses all of these matters. Prester John says it is a dangerous thing, a monk dabbling in the occult. His very soul could be in danger. Saint Grobian says forget the soul. He could have been defrocked, excommunicated, even killed. All for a little curiosity. Better to stay stupid and ignorant. That's what I say Hebe. Beatrice says we're well aware. Option 1 of 4 there is great power in magical books, but it a power that can be used responsibly. Option 2 of 4 I've read many of the same books Prior Ferenc has. Most of them are harmless nonsense. Prester John says that is not the position of the Church, who views these matters suspiciously in the best of circumstances. Prior Ferenc feared loss of his status, his life, and even God's grace. Socrates says men have killed for less. How might the Prior have accomplished the deed? Player says I am not certain. Options.
Oh my
Language.
God,
Easy
the-
language. Easy read font language. Resolution. Master.
God
Sounds.
damn,
Ambient
the
sounds.
ambient, like, can we get just straight
Sounds
get rid of-
volume.
Yeah, like turn
Options.
that down. Those birds, man.
Prester John says it will be a challenge to convince the Archdeacon that a prior committed a murder this foul. Options. Language. Master volume. Sounds volume. Ambient sounds. Music volume. Options. Prester John says if you mean to suggest that Frank is a suspect, you must find a weapon to convince the Archdeacon. Are there any others you suspect? Player says I found no other suspects. Prester John says you have brought a worthy mystery before this court. Andrea, I pray to God we have granted you the insight you need to face the coming challenge. Player says thank you, Your Majesty. I am prepared to meet the day. Beatrice says before you go, Andreas, there is one more thing to consider. You will be summoned to the Archdeacon to tell him what you know. But you need not tell him everything. Option 1 of 3 I think I understand. Option. Socrates says there is a place for a noble lie. This is not one of them. Beatrice says why? The Baron is dead. All of the people with a motive to kill him suffered, either directly or indirectly, from his wickedness. Simply mentioning a name to the Archdeacon may endanger them, whether they had anything to do with the murder or not. Saint Grobine says right. No point throwing everyone waist deep into Prester John says I protest any attempt at deception, but you must options, language, easy read, easy dial, ligatures. Historical lettering. Heads, virtual, gamepad rumble, head scale, gamepad virtual cursor sensitivity. Gamepad rumble. Head, east language. English. Language. Options. Language. Resolution. Master volume. High contrast. Master volume. High contrast. W/A/S/ options. Prester John says little time remains before you must stand before the Archdeacon. Use it wisely. Option 1 of 3 I must. Option 3 of 3. Prester John says until we meet again, Andreas. God be with you. Player says and also with you, Your Majesty. Zidana says Andreas. Andreas. Wake up. Well, are you here for the books or for me? Option 1 of 4 I was walking in my sleep. Option 3 of 4 I was looking for clues. Zidana says quite noble of you to risk the abbot's wrath by breaking in here. The Baron seemed like an interesting man, not that Mother Cecilia would let any of the sisters talk to him. Was he interesting? Option 1 of 2 he had a great appreciation for art which, as an artist, I also appreciate. Option 2 of Zidana says I wish more rude, presumptuous asses would visit us. I wish anyone interesting would visit Kiersau. The abbey is incredibly boring unless you love praying constantly, selling medallions to pilgrims, and shuffling books around. I don't, so I have to find my own ways to entertain myself. I appreciate art. Could you help me deepen my appreciation? Option 1 of 3 I suppose. Option 3, Zidana says who cares? What are you worried about? No one is here but you and me. No can see us. You could teach me about art. You could teach me about something else. No one will know what happened but me, and you. Do you understand what I'm saying? Option 1 of 2 kiss her. Option 2 of 2 player says Option 1 of 3 this is exceedingly dangerous. It's a bad idea. Option 1 of 2 but, God, she's beautiful. Option 2 of 2 then again, She's mean-spirited. If I turn her down, she won't take it well. Player says who knows what kind of headaches she'll cause for me. Option 1 of 2 kiss her. Option 2 of 2 scoot away. Zidana says what are you doing? Asshole. Kiss me. Option 1 of 2 kiss her even though it's probably a bad idea. Option 2 Zidana says you idiot. You're going to regret this. Illuminata says Sister Zidana, are you here yet? Zidana says oh, God protect us. Sister Illuminata. Come quickly. Someone is sleeping behind the bookshelf. Illuminata says Andreas. How did you find your way in here? Zidana says Sister Illuminata, Andreas was lying in wait behind the bookshelf and tried to take advantage of me. Option 1 of 3 no. It was her idea. Option 2 of 3 I did no such thing. Illuminata says I do not know whom to believe here, Andreas. There is no good reason for you to be in this library, at this hour or any hour. Then again, I know Sister Zidana to be an imaginative young woman and an inveterate liar. Zidana says I'm not lying. Illuminata says silence. And why are you here in the first place? You scared Sister Zidana half to death. Option 1 of 2 I was looking at the Abbey's admission records for clues about the Baron's death. Illuminata says what do the Abbey's records have to do with Baron Rothvogel's murder? Player says I learned that the Baron hurt one of the sisters on his last visit to Kearsarge. Illuminata says oh. I see. Yes, Sister Matilda. What happened to her was evil. But if you were reading about Sister Matilda, you can't really believe she killed the Baron. Zidana says Matilda killed Baron Rothvogel. Illuminata says shush. Of course not. Zidana says. Illuminata says I sincerely doubt that it's possible. Option 1 of 3 I can't rule anything out. Options, language. Full screen, resolution. Master volume. Sounds volume. Options. Option 1 of 3 I can't rule. Options, language, easy read fonts. Master, sounds volume. Options. Option 3 of option 1 of 3 I can't rule. Option 2 option 3 of 3 option 1 of 3 I can't option Illuminata says that is not your place to decide. It is the Archdeacon's. I have no desire to see Brother Pierrot lose his life, either, but this is out of my hands. This is not appropriate for us to discuss any further. You should speak to Sister Matilda or Mother Cecilia.
Yeah, nothing bad happens, so nothing is fucked here. Nothing is fucked here. Quite literally. Nothing, no one is fucked here. I really wanted to fuck the girl. It went against all my instincts. But I also was like, yeah, I don't think you fucked a nun in the Franciscan friar. I don't think you fucked the nun in the Italian monastery. I don't think that's a good idea. I think you probably get your head chopped off for doing shit like that. I really don't think it was. I thought it was rather pussy to do it, to turn her down. But I bet I lived through this, and I bet I get a good answer and a good ending. I wanted to fuck her as much as anybody else does.
Player says I can't speak with you. Illuminata says it is not my story to tell, and in case you've forgotten, you shouldn't even be here.
Yep. I like her.
Please leave. Immediately. Option 1 of 2, of course. I'm sorry for the trouble. Illuminata says as you should be.
Yeah. Oh, you were in the wrong room.
Come, Sister Zidana, we have work to do. Library. Player says I should find someone to eat with.
Who am I going to eat with?
Abbot Dietrich, from the height of Kearsarge's power in the 14th church.
Oh.
Wojcislav says Andreas, wait. Andreas. Christ. There you are. Option 1 of 3 Brother Wojcislav. What's the matter? Wojcislav says it's the Archdeacon. He's come early, with an entire retinue in tow. He's questioning everyone who knew the Baron and Brother Pierrot. I've already told him the little I know. He expects to speak with you today at Nones. He requested you, specifically. I went to the Gürtners at Vespers to try to warn you and you never showed up. Where were you all night? Option 1 of 2 just, out. You know how it is. Option 2 of 2 honestly, Wojcislav says what? Why? No, never mind. Just don't let the abbot find out and don't tell the Archdeacon. Anyway, he's questioning everyone in the chapter house and he's keenly interested in you. Option 1 of 2 did he say why? Option 2 of 2 who is with him? Wojcislav says several men at arms, a gaggle of functionaries, A&D. An executioner. I hope your prying has borne fruit, or Pierrot's neck will meet the sword.
You'll never get Pierrot.
Option 1 of 2 I've done my best with the time I've had. Player says if only I'd had a couple more days. Wojcislav says whatever happens, Pierrot knows you've been working hard on his behalf, and he's grateful for it. Only. Andreas. Option 1 of 2 what is it? Wojcislav says it's just, you know as well as I do the Baron was not a good man. I'm not saying he deserved what he got, just, you think hard about what you tell the Archdeacon, and who you tell him about. You understand? Player says you don't need to worry, I've found nothing that implicates you. Option 1 of 2 you didn't do it, did you? Wojcislav says it's not me I'm worried about. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to shout. You don't deserve that. All I'm saying is, if in your searching you heard anything about a certain sister, I'd ask you to keep it to yourself. Option 1 of 2 I'll do what I can to protect the sisters from censure. Wojcislav says that's all I would ask of you. Be well, Andreas. I will pray for Pierrot's deliverance tonight. You should as well. Tower. Crypt, cloister. Sabat. Sabat says God bless you, Andreas. Do you have time to eat with me and some of the townspeople? Option 1 of 2, of course. I'll talk to Gret and see who she wants to come along. Where should we meet you? Sabat says at the shrine to St. Moritz. I'll see you there. Player says until then. Sabat says oh my. Andreas. Player says yes. Sabat says are these all of the mothers from Tassing and their children? Player says well, no. I don't think it's all of them. Gret says Helena Pfeiffer couldn't make it. It's a long walk up here in her condition.
I like how he got all the women and the children together. This is a really beautiful little picture. I like how their heads are bigger so you can see it.
And Hetty said Hans was too big for stories. Sabat says stories. Option 1 of 2 I may have said something about your books. Berthold says I like stories.
Aww.
Marie says yes, maybe a little too much.
Whatever.
Sabat says ha. Alright. I can tell a story, but first let us pray together and eat. O Lord, thank you for bringing us together as you brought Jesus to his disciples on the road to Emmaus. With the breaking of bread between us, let us recognize each other as Christians and rejoice in our salvation through you. Amen.
What does Christianity have to do with it?
Gret and else Paul Player says amen. Sabat says, and I thank you and your husband for this bread, Gret. Gret says, my Ulrich always says that bread brings people together. Option 1 of 2 I don't know. I think we could see some real trouble in Tassing if you ever ran out of rye. Option 2 of 2 I missed this when I was in Florence. Brigida says they don't have bread in Florence. Wolf says wah. Berthold says where's Florence? Marie says south, over the mountains. Last week, the blonde lady at our house with the pretty clothes, she was from Florence. Berthold says oh. Sabat says Father Gernot eats a white bread, does he not? El says yes, the finest wheat is used for the abbot's bread. Paul says why? El says the abbot is a very important man, Paul. Sabat says we have a bread in my home that we call injera. We make it thin, round, and white and we put our food on top of it. We eat it with almost every meal. As you love the bread of your home, so I miss mine. Gret says oh, what's the recipe? Maybe we could make it. Sabat says thank you, but no. We use a fine grain that does not grow here. Option 1 of 2 surely someday you'll go home and can have your fill of it. Sabat says God willing, yes. But then perhaps a day will come when I miss the rye of Tassing. It is the great danger that comes with the blessing of travel, living a life between worlds. Berthold says I don't want to talk about bread anymore. It's so boring. Ursula says Bria. PPPP. Marie says don't be rude, Bert. Sabat says I did say I would tell a story. Children, have you ever seen a Bible? Anna says Father Tom. Berthold says yeah. Father Thomas has one. Paul says my dad has one. It was printed in Bamberg. Sabat says very good. This is a Bible from my home that I brought to give to the abbot. Andreas, do you have a favorite story to illustrate from the Bible? Option 1 of 5 Adam and Eve at the tree of knowledge of good and evil. Option 2, Option 3 of, Option 4, Option 5 of 5 Christ being taken down from the cross. Sabat says a wondrous paradox, the defeat of Jesus Christ's body and the triumph of the spirit over death itself. It is both an image of great sorrow at what has happened and great joy at what is to come. Now then, children, do you know the story of Jesus feeding the multitudes? Berthold says fish and loaves. Anna says my mom and dad make loaves. Sabat says this is from our Bible, how we tell the story of how Jesus fed thousands from only a few fish and a few loaves of bread. Anna says why is everyone brown? Sabat says because where I am from, everyone looks like me. Anna says why? Sabat says because we are all as God has made us.
It's beautiful, I love it. It's a much more refreshing change from the kind of crazy Illuminati painting and stuff that I've seen in a lot of the games I've been playing lately.
I know Tassing seems big to you, but the world is so much bigger than we can imagine. There are many people of many different colors all over the world. There are places where no one looks like you or me. Anna says really? Player says it's true. In Venice I saw people come from across the Mediterranean Sea. Not just like Brother Sabat, but people of different places and cultures, even farther away. Persians, Moors, Ottomans. Each with their own way of speaking and dressing, their own customs. Berthold says Brother Sabat, did you know the Baron who was murdered? Marie says Bert. Sabat says. Player says it came up when I was visiting the Druckers. Option 1 of 3 I needed someone to talk to. Option, Sabat says there's nothing to apologize for. We can't shield them from the world forever. I did not know him, Bert. But do you know the story of Lazarus? Berthold says No. Sabat says he was a friend of Jesus. He became sick and he died. Ursula says die. Der. Anna says hat. Sabat says but Jesus brought his followers to Lazarus' tomb. He prayed to God and when they opened the tomb, Lazarus emerged, returned from the dead. Berthold says Jesus can bring people back from the dead. Sabat says he can, Bert. One day Jesus will bring us all back from the dead. Everyone who has ever lived and died will come together and be resurrected on Judgment Day. Option 1 of 2 hey.
Aww.
Option 2 of 2 say nothing. Paul says even the Romans? Sabat says yes, the Romans too. Sabat says why did you ask about the Romans? Paul says I saw one come out of their tomb, like Lazarus. El says what do you mean, Paul? Paul says well the ruins below the mill, they're Roman. And they all died a long time ago. But I saw one come out the other night. They were in white, like Lazarus. El says let's stop telling stories, Paul. And you shouldn't have been outside at night. Sabat says Andreas, what does he mean?
This game, but I'm tearing through it. I did not mean to beat a game. I didn't mean to fuck around and beat a game in a day. That wasn't really my vibe, but I'll do it. You know, I'll take the achievements.
Options. Options.
Meal hours.
Option 1 of 3 I don't know. It's troubling, to be sure. Option 2 of 3 I think I may have seen something similar. The option 3 of 3 I know of texts, rituals that an educated man could use to attempt to summon a spirit.
Ha! Bull
Option 2
hockey.
of 3 I. Sabat says what? Really? Where? Option 1 of 2, the same place by the Roman ruins. Player says maybe Paul did see a spirit of some kind. Sabat says. It's a very dire omen if that is what he saw. I will pray on this. Apologies for that, ladies. But thank you for sharing a meal with me today. I will be leaving for Rome soon, but I am glad to have spent some time with you and your children. Gret says thank you, Brother Sabat. It was wonderful. Don't forget to stop by the bakery before you go. I'm sure my husband will want to see you before you go. Sabat says I will. God grant you all health. Player says I need to go to the chapter house to meet with the Archdeacon. Upper Abbey. Lower Abbey. Church. Church. Monastery Loquarium. Rudger says God bless you, Andreas. Cloister.
Victime Pascali laudes, Imolen Christiani.
Tower.
Agnus redenit
Crypt. Cloister. Crypt. Tower. Dormitory. Old Bailey. Matthew. Sacristy. Matthew. Matthew says God bless you, sacristy. Matthew. Old dormitory. Cloister. Kitchen and cemetery. Kitchen and cellar. Dormitory. Church. Refectory. Court. Veronica. Veronica says hello. Andreas. Hetty. Large. Gert. Marguerite. Marguerite says Master Mailer. Player says yes, it's me, sister. Marguerite says do you think Brother Piero really murdered the Baron? Option 1 of 2 no, of course not. Marguerite says oh. Then why did Father Abbot have him put in the cellar? Option 1 of 2 I don't know the answer to that, Sister Marguerite. I'm sorry. Option 2 of 2 Marguerite says do you think the devil could appear here at Kiersaw? Option 1 of 2 yes, I suppose. Why?
What an odd, scary question. And she's gonna listen to what I say too.
Option 2. Marguerite says I didn't see the devil, but I think I smelled his odor. The night before the Baron was killed, I woke before Matins and I smelled something in our dormitory. It was strange. Moss and sulfur mixed with frankincense and roses. It moved through the room. I wanted to scream, but I was too frightened. And then it was gone. I'm ashamed that I didn't cry out, but I didn't know what to do. Option 1 of 2 I don't know that I would have done any better, sister. Option. Marguerite says I don't know. but I think they were all asleep. Player says thank you, Sister Marguerite. Marguerite says God bless you, Master Mailer. Marguerite. Edoc. Edoc says God bless you, Guy. Guy says good day, Andreas. Edoc. Marguerite says God, Gert, large, Hetty. Veronica says Hetty, large, Gert, Mark, Edoc, Guy. Chap. Ulrich says God bless you, Andreas. Ulrich. Infirmary. Ulrich. Chapter house. Gernot says Andreas. Option 1 of 2 Father Gernot. Gernot says Master Mailer, if you think I am unaware of your actions around this abbey in the past few days, you are mistaken. Option 1 of 2 O. Gernot says I know that you visited the widow Kemperin and convinced her to question the legal status of her lease. Option 1 of 2 Do you often spy on old women? Gernot says news travels quickly in a small town, Master Mailer. I suppose it's something you wouldn't have learned after all your time in Nuremberg and Venice, but yes, I know, and no, the legal status of her late husband's lease is not in question. Option 1 of 2 Let's see what the Archdeacon thinks. Option 2 Gernot says because your presence is annoying and corrupting, like a fly in ointment. Option 1 of 2 So, like you in this abbey. Gernot says you see corruption everywhere around you and have no sense of the moral rod in your own soul. It's tragic, but inconsequential. Your ill-informed opinions have no bearing on what happens to that property. Now then, for all your meddling, you will not be welcome in Kiersau after your commission is completed. Option 1 of 4 Fine. Option 2 of 4 What are you going to do, have Matthew throw me out? Option 3 of 4 Well, I'm not coming back to this pile of cow shit if I can help it. Option 4 of 4 I apologize. I was only trying to help Brother Pierrot. Gernot says it's too late for apologies. Your days of interfering in the daily life of this abbey will end. Option 1 of 3 It was never my intent to interfere, Father Abbot. Gernot says I'll leave you to the Archdeacon now. Try not to perjure your God save you, Andreas Mailer. Cloister. Jacob says please state your name for our records. Option 1 of 3 Andreas Mailer, journeyman artist from Nuremberg. Option 3 of 3 Jacob says really? What brought you all the way to Upper Bavaria? Option 1 of 3 I'm heading back to Nuremberg to finish my apprenticeship and open a workshop. It's the end of my wander jar. Option 2 of 3 I heard the abbey had some wonderful books. When I learned they had need of an artist, I decided. Option 1 Jacob says very well. Thank you. Arnold, please write that down. I think we're ready to begin. Arnold says of course, Your Reverence. Jacob says now then, Master Mailer, what was your relation to Lorenz, the Baron Rothvogel? Option 1 of 2 I only knew him for a day, but we were on friendly terms. Option 2 Jacob says would it be fair to say that you did not feel you knew him well? Option 1 of 2 Yes, Your Reverence. Jacob says that is unfortunate, but I'd like you to try to characterize the man for me. Option 1 of 3 A fine man, a lover of art and knowledge. Option 2 of 3 Confident, overbearing. Used to get. Option 3 of Jacob says do you have a problem with the nobility, Master Mailer? Option 1 of 4 Of course not, Your Reverence, but even noblemen may be. Option 1 of 4 Of course not, Your Reverence, but even noblemen may be tempted to abuse the option 3 of Option 4 Jacob says I determine what is germane. And have you already forgotten who asks the questions here? Option 1 of 2 My apologies, Your Reverence. Option 2 of 2 Jacob says do you know of anyone who had a reason to harm the Baron? Option 1 of 2 I can think of a few people, Your Reverence. Jacob says good. That might help us solve this problem that faces us. The Baron Rothvogel was murdered here, in this very room. Someone did it. Father Gernot believes it was one of his monks, Brother Pierrot. I have met with Brother Pierrot and questioned him at length. While it seems unlikely that a man of his age and temperament could murder the Baron, he was discovered in flagranti delicto. Option 1 of 3 Say nothing. Option 2 of 3 He wasn't, though. The Baron was already dead. Option 3 of 3 Technically, he did. Jacob says Master Mailer, I am not interested in your clarifications, technical or otherwise, on matters of Latin or law. If you wish to advocate on behalf of Brother Pierrot, I suggest shutting your mouth until I ask you a question.
What if I do
Pierrot had
what I
reasons to
want?
resent the Baron. The loss of his work, the insistence on discussing the writings of the troublemaker from Wittenberg. And as for his age and infirmity, I myself have read of many cases in which a man of modest strength succumbs to the temptations of the devil. Once seized by a devilish fever, the poor sinner gains an infernal power that allows him to inflict grievous wounds. Sometimes fatal. What I am saying is that in spite of the curious circumstances, Brother Pierrot is the most plausible perpetrator of this most vile act. I understand that you are on friendly terms with Brother Pierrot. You also interacted with the Baron both in the town and the Abbey. Did you witness anything that suggests someone else could have murdered Baron Rothvogel? Option 1 of 4 Lucky Steinauer argued with the Baron. Option 2 of 4 A widow in Tassing, Adelai Baron. Option 3 of 4 the Abbey's prior, Ferenc, was behaving suspiciously the day of the Baron's arrival. He may have had a motive. Jacob says that is an extraordinary claim, Andreas. The abbot speaks highly of the prior and he oversees both your and Brother Pierrot's work, does he not? Option 1 of 2 yes, your reverence. Option 2 of 2 yes, but Jacob says an extraordinary claim requires extraordinary evidence for me to take it seriously. Why should I take the word of an artist over a respected officer of this abbey? Player says I can provide evidence of prior Ferenc's motive. Jacob says please do so. Option 1 of 2 on the day that the Baron arrived, I secretly observed prior Ferenc in the scriptorium. Option 2 of 2 Baron Rothvogel and prior. Option 1 of 2 Jacob says was this an intentionally covered observation? Option 1 of 2 no, I was working alone and had dropped something on the floor. The prior did not know I was there. Option 2 of 2 no, it wasn't planned. Jacob says very well. Continue. Player says he wrote a note, a cipher, in a book. It was associated with a volvel that he used to encode something in it. Jacob says yes. What had he encoded? Player says I am not certain, but it is very suspicious. Jacob says Master Mailer, could you please confine your remarks to information that leads somewhere useful? Now, do you have any other evidence against the prior? Option 1 of 2 Baron Rothvogel and Prior Ferenc were exchanging letters about performing a magical ritual during the Baron's visit. Jacob says you have proof of this? Player says I have an imprint of a letter that the prior wrote to the Baron. In it, the prior mentions that he will not perform a ritual for the Baron, even if the Baron does follow through on a threat to implicate him to inquisitors in Innsbruck.
Hot goss.
Jacob says an implication of necromancy is a serious matter. The prior's position would have been in peril, possibly even his life. And how do you believe Prior Ferenc would have killed the Baron? I pray you will not say it was a magical ritual. Player says I am not certain. Jacob says ah. A troubles, is there anything else to say about the prior? Player says no, your reverence. Jacob says very well. Who else may have wanted to see the Baron dead? Option 1 of 5 Lucky Steinauer argued with the Baron. Option 4, option 5 of 5 I can think of no one. Option 3 of 5 a local thief, Martin Bauer. Option 2 of 5 a widow in Tassing, Adelai Baron, hated the Baron. Option 3 of 5 a local thief, Jacob says yes. His name has come up in my understanding is that he absconded with some of the Baron's valuables. Arnold? Arnold says yes, your reverence. A silver ring, a gold ring, 12 golden, 10 groschen, and a book intended as a gift for the abbey. Jacob says thank you. It is my understanding that this boy was known as a thief but also as a coward. And that the theft was from the abbey's guest house, after the Baron had already left it. Option 1 of 2 even so, it's still possible that he could have committed them. Option 2 of 2, very well. Option 1 of 2 even so, it's still possible. Option 2 of 2, Jacob says I am not treating him as a serious suspect for the Baron's murder at this time. Who else may have wanted to see the Baron dead? Option 1 of 4 Lucky Steinauer argued with the Baron. Jacob says who is Lucky? Steinauer? I don't believe his name has come up. Player says the town stonemason. Jacob says all right. What's the connection between the town stonemason? Player says I and at least 3 farmers in the village saw Lucky arguing with the Baron when he came to town. Jacob says about what? Player says I don't know, but the argument was heated. Hetty and Veronica Bauerin witnessed it. Jacob says you mentioned a third witness. Player says yes, Martin Bauer. Jacob says ah, yes. As discussed, the boy fled. Still, we will question the women about what they and how do you propose that this stonemason killed the Baron? Option 1 of 2 he's quite strong. Option 2 of 2 in spite of his age. Jacob says yes, I passed it on the way to the abbey. Player says I saw Lucky lift one of the largest stones in the cemetery wall, by himself. Jacob says from what I remember, the stones are quite large. But being strong alone does not mean that he murdered the Baron. Player says I also witnessed him killing fish by slamming their heads against a rock. The Baron was killed by a blow to the back of the head. There was a bloodstain at head level on that wall not far from where he fell. Jacob says the blood could have stained the wall subsequent to his injury. Player says or it could have occurred because Lucky slammed the Baron into the wall hard enough to kill him. Jacob says an interesting theory. Master, is there anyone else you can think of who may have wanted to harm the Baron? Option 1 of 3 a widow in Tassing, Adelai Baron, hated the Baron. Jacob says what cause did she have? Player says the Baron was responsible for the death. Jacob says responsible how? Player says years ago, when the Baron visited Tassing, he quarreled with Rannig Kemper. The two came to blows. According to the widow, the Baron beat Rannig so severely that he never fully healed from the injuries. He died not long ago and their home is in legal jeopardy. The widow held the Baron responsible for all of this. Jacob says, and how do you propose this woman killed the Baron? He was not in the prime of his life, but certainly a robust man by all accounts. Player says even a healthy man can be killed by a blow to the back of the head. Jacob says yes, but with what? Player says honestly, I don't know. No murder weapon was found in the chapter house, nor has anyone discovered a weapon the widow could have used. Jacob says that complicates the matter. Do you know anything else about the widow? Option 1 of 3, Your Reverence. I would like to bring up a concern I have about Adelai Kemperan's lease with the Abbey. Jacob says, is this relevant to the murder of the Baron? Player says no, but as you represent the Prince Bishop and the Abbot rules these lands, I was hoping you might listen. Jacob says, please be brief, Master Mailer. I have many more people to question. Player says the Abbot had Brother Guy write a letter to the widow about reclaiming her land. Jacob says false in what way? Player says they claim the lease was with the widow's late husband, Ranag Kemper. It was not. The lease began generations earlier with Adelai's great-grandfather. Jacob says what substantive bearing does this have on the Abbot's claim? Option 1 of 2, Your Reverence. I am not a lawyer, but there is clearly some malfeasance in the Abbey's claim. Option 2 of 2, if the existing lease allows for the widow to partition her. Jacob says yes, if it does. Many peasants and freeholds resort to such measures in hard times. Very well, Master Mailer. I shall make my own inquiry after I have completed my work here.
Oh, I got an achieve off that.
Now
Yeah.
then, let us return to the matter at hand. Player says I can think of no one else who could have cause to harm the Baron, Your Reverence.
Oh.
Jacob says very well. Are you aware of anything else that might shed some light on this case? Player says, has Brother Florian told you about the note he found in the Baron's clothing? Jacob says yes. Brother Florian explained how he came to find it. Master Idlejager has entered his testimony in our register. I don't understand the implications. Who is the innocent? Player says it's not clear to me either, Your Reverence. Jacob says, do you believe the murderer wrote it? Player says whoever wrote it was a talented scribe. Jacob says I understand Kearsaw has two, the elderly brother Edok and the younger brother Guy. Player says to be frank, Your Reverence, neither man has the skill to write in this. There's something else about it, too. The style is just different. It's unlike Edok and Guy's writing. Something about the way the first and second strokes meet on the A and G. Jacob says yes. Well, whatever the particulars, it seems it will remain a mystery that stands apart from the commission of the murder. Option 1 of 2. Unfortunately, there is more to tell. I found more notes. Player says notes written in the same hand, on the same type of parchment, to those who had a motive to kill the Baron. Jacob says that is deeply troubling, but again, beyond the bounds of my investigation. In any case, I thank you for bringing it to my attention. Player says of course, Jacob says thank you again for your time, Master Mailer. Option 1 of 2. Would it be impertinent of me to opine on who the killer is? Jacob says not at all. You are an educated man and have conducted yourself appropriately in this inquiry. I reserve final judgment, of course, but who do you believe killed the Baron? Option 1 of 2. Considering all of the evidence. Option 1 of 3. Adelai Kemperan cursed the Baron when we were walking through. Option 3 of 3. Ferenc in Ferenc's house. I discovered the volval he was holding when he deciphered the manuscript. I can use this to figure out the cipher he left. Player says prior Ferenc, Option 1 of 3. His behavior on the day of the Baron's arrival revealed his anxiety about his situation. Option 2 of 3. Others may have had a motive, but prior Ferenc had the most to lose. Jacob says noted. Your contributions to this inquiry are appreciated. Thank you for your time and candor. Option 1 of 2. You are quite welcome, Your Reverence. Option 2. Jacob says until later, Master Mailer. Player says until then, Your Reverence. Peter says Andreas. I didn't think you were coming to this. Option 1 of 3. I didn't think I was, either. I suppose I wanted to see how this ends after all. Option 3. Clara says, can you believe that Lucky Steinauer killed that nobleman?
Oh, it was Lucky.
Bidjörg says you missed the trial, Andreas. A magistrate from Mittenwald came in, read all of the charges, and found him guilty. Option 1 of 4. Lucky? Well, he has a temper. Option 3 of 4. Well, whether we believe it or not. Option 4 of 4. This isn't what I told the Option 3 of 4. Option 4 of Peter says I suppose that's why you are not the Archdeacon, then. I can't remember the last time there was an execution in Tassing. Eva says oh, here comes the procession. Otto says did I miss anything? Eva says no, you're fine. Otto says Andreas. Option 1 of 2 Otto. Matthew says Agnes Dei, qui talis peccata mundi, miserere nobis. Agnes Dei, qui talis peccata mundi, miserere nobis. Agnes Dei, qui talis peccata mundi, dona nobis. Old Otto says we know you did. Lenhart says see and you hell. Otto says it should be you under. Peter says shut your mouth, Muller. Arnold says silence. Silence. I order the executioner to carry out his duty. I warrant him peace and safe conduct, whatever may befall him. Lucky says Lord, into your hands I commit my spirit. Option 1 of 2 watch. Option 2 of 2 look away. Option 1 of 2 watch. Richard says my lord judge, have I executed well? Arnold says you have executed as judgment and law have required. Richard says for that I thank God and my master who has taught me such art.
The art of chopping someone's head off.
Agnes says you. I know this is your doing. Option 1 of 3 I don't know what you are talking about. Option 2 of 3 your husband is the one who. Option 3 of 3 Agnes, no. Player says I don't believe your husband could have done this any more than I believe brother Piero capable of it. Agnes says but, you talked to the archdeacon. What did you tell him? Option 1 of 2 very little. Just what I knew about the Baron and brother Piero. Option 2 of 2 Agnes says why did they take him from me? Option 1 of 2 say nothing. Option 2 of 2 I'm sorry, Agnes. Piero says Andreas. Has the time come for you to leave us? Option 1 of 2 I'm afraid so, brother Piero. Option 2 of 2 yes, and none too soon. Player says this farewell will have to be brief. Father Gernot made it clear I was no longer welcome at Kiersau. Piero says I pray that time will soften Father Abbott's heart. I hope he eventually realizes you were only trying to help me. This is a sad parting, but inevitable. I had hoped you would stay a bit longer. But the world needs you more than Kiersau does. You have grown beyond this old abbey and become a master in your own right. I will miss you, my son. Option 1 of 2 is I will you. Option 2 Piero says I pray that is the last trouble I will see in my old age. And I have God and you to thank for getting me out of it. Come, your masterpiece is complete. May I see it one last time before you go? Option 1 of 2 please. I value your assessment. Piero says the opinion of one old monk matters little. All the same, I am excited to see it finished at last. Piero says it is a masterpiece, truly worthy of the word. And it appears you took my advice to heart. Player says what advice was that? Piero says to put yourself into the work. Not just to interpret another artist's work, but to transform it into something true. This shows the world as it is, as you have seen it, even if it is not what we may want to see.
Yeah.
Though it is not my place to say so, I am proud of you, Andreas. Player says what's this? Hero says a scrap of parchment. Hero says do not return here. A warning. Hero says whose hand is this? It doesn't look like Brother Edoc's or Brother Guy's. Option 1 of 2 Brother Florian and I found a similar note in the Baron's clothing. Option 1 of 2 and I found more notes delivered to others while I was investigating. Player says they must have been written by someone who knew the darkest secrets of the town in this abbey. They tugged at those secrets to kill the Baron, like someone pulling at threads that had been buried in the past. Piero says a frightening thought. But who would do such a thing? Option 1 of 2 I wish I knew. Piero says do not trouble yourself overly about it. Your future lies outside of these walls. I hope that you will have time to visit me once or twice in your travels before the Lord takes me. Option 1 of 2 I'll come as often as I can. Option 2 Player says assuming Father Gernot doesn't forbid it. Piero says we must have faith that better days lie ahead for all of us. God bless you, Andreas Mailer. Option 1 of 3 Thank you for your friendship. Until next time. Option 3 of 3. God bless you, Brother Pierrot.
That was like 100G.
Casper says, are you alright, Master Andreas? Player says, what? Casper says, are you alright, Master Andreas? Player says, yes, thank you. I was just remembering him, trying to, anyway. It doesn't come easily anymore. Casper says, oh. Would you like me to leave you alone? Player says, no, Casper. It's not necessary. There's nothing to be done about it now. It's too late. Like so many things. Guy says, Andreas Mailer. I never expected to see your face here again. Have you been in Nuremberg for these last 7 years? Player says no. Nuremberg for a few years, but I received some lucrative commissions abroad. Option 1 of 4 Andreas knows some Polish, bits of Czech and Hungarian, and can reference. Option 2 of 4 England. Option 1 of 4 Andreas knows some Polish, bits of Czech and Hungarian, and can reference cultural touchstones from Krakow, Prague, and Buda. Option 3 of 4 France Andreas knows French and can reference culture. Option 2 of 4 England Andreas knows some English and can reference cultural touch. Option 4 of 4 Aragon Andreas knows. Option 1 of 4 Poland Andreas knows some Polish, bits of Czech and Hungarian. Option 2 of 4 England Andreas knows some English and can reference cultural touch. Player says I was in London, mostly. I was well received there and painted portraits for the nobility and prominent merchants. Guy says, did you encounter any Jews among your clients? Player says no, though there was rumor of a home for Jewish converts to Christianity in the city. Why? Guy says I had given a handful of positions naturalized as citizens after the expulsion. I wondered if they might have found a home in England after their recent ejections from Portugal and Navarre. Player says I'm surprised you care at all. Guy says, in spite of your extensive travels and success, you are still not welcome at Kearsarge. The abbot hasn't forgotten what happened. 7 years isn't all that long. Option 1 of 2 I was just passing through on my way back to Nuremberg. I thought I'd stop in. Guy says, well, you've stopped. Now you have to go. Father Abbott's instructions were clear. Option 1 of 2 fine. Tell Father Gernot I'll be staying at the Landhaus in town for a night or two before moving on. Guy says, the golden hand? I'll tell him, but I can't imagine he'll care. Casper says, why is he so rude? Guy says, God bless you. Now, be off. Cloister. Casper says that monk seemed unhappy to see you, Master Andreas. Why is the abbot so angry with you? Player says toward the end of my stay in Tassing, there was a murder at Kearsarge Abbey, a nobleman. Father Gernot panicked and accused my friend, Brother Pierrot, of committing the crime. Option 1 of 2 I helped convince the investigating archdeacon that the town stonemason, Lucky, was responsible. Option 2 of 2 it was a long. Option 1 of 2 I helped convince the investigating player says he was executed for the crime. Casper says you got someone killed. Option 1 of 2 yes. Option 2 of 2 Casper says that's not much of a choice. Still, why didn't you mention it before? Well, I suppose it must have been a hard situation about if the abbot is still this mad at you. Option 1 of 2 I had to make some difficult choices. Maybe they were the wrong ones. I've had to live with that. Casper says why did we come here if you are not welcome? Player says I wanted to pay my respects to Brother Pierrot. And, to be honest, I'm not looking forward to returning to Nuremberg. This commission, it's an obscene vanity piece under the pretext of a religious scene. My patrons just want to celebrate themselves and their wealth. I dread each new commission more than the last. Every step I take toward home is agonizing. Casper says but, Master, you're famous and rich. Your work is wonderful. When I saw your altarpiece in Nuremberg, I begged my father to help me become your apprentice. I don't understand how you could accomplish all that you have and be unhappy. Option 1 of 3 I know. It must be hard to believe. I was once very much like you. Player says once, I wanted this life so much that it consumed my every waking thought. I don't know if I've changed or if what I wanted was never really real. Maybe I've been a fool this whole time. Option 1 of 2 I want life as an artist to be better for you, Casper. Learn from my mistakes, alright? Casper says alright. Yes, Master Andreas. Option 1 of 2 I shouldn't be burdening you with such dark thoughts, Casper. Player says come, let's visit my old friend Klaus. It's been too long. Casper says as you like, Master Andreas. Go to bed. Player says I'm not tired yet. Perhaps after Compline, Golden Hand in. Hannah. Hannah says hello, Andreas. How are you enjoying your stay? Option 1 of 3 it's been wonderful, Hannah, thank you. Hannah says oh good. You're in the best room we have. I'm glad it's to your liking. Was there anything else? Player says no, thank you. Until later. Hannah says until then. Hannah. Meadow. Otto says just do it. You know it's the right thing. I don't understand why this is so hard for you. Martin says Otto, I'm scared. It's dangerous to cross the abbot. Otto says would you prefer the alternative? Martin says you don't need to do that, Otto. I understand, I'm just say. Otto says. Andreas? Andreas Mailer? It's good to see you again, old friend. Player says Otto. You're looking well. This is my apprentice, Casper Ziegler, from Salzburg. Casper says good day. Otto says ah, that answers that. I thought he might be your son. Option 1 of 3 we don't grow them that fast, even in Nuremberg. Option 2 of 3 no, no. Not yet. Otto says Eva and I just had our first. Little Otto, though we call him OTZ. Option 1 of 2 congratulations to you both. That's wonderful news. Otto says thank you. It's been a trial with Dad gone, but Clara and Ursula help out where they can. Option 1 of 2 I'm sorry to hear about your father. Otto says that's life. At least he's with the Lord now, free of his aches and pains. I know Eva wrote to you about my father's death, Andreas. Why didn't you write back? Option 1 of 2 I'm sorry, things got busy after I left Tassing. Martin says sorry to interrupt, but I should be heading back. Option 1 of 2 I feel like I should remember your face, but I can't place it. Martin says oh, don't trouble yourself. It's me, Martin. Remember? Option 1 of 2 oh, yes, of course. Hello, Martin. Martin says hello. Sorry to run, but I have to get these sheep back to the farm. As much as I love whiling away the hours in the meadow, I have a lot to attend to. Otto, I'll see you at the meeting later. Andreas, until later. Option 1 of 2 until then. Otto says pain in my ass. Option 1 of 3 what's this about a meeting? Option 3 Otto says true. He's like the prodigal son. Took over his father's farm after Franz died. He's been a much better husband to Brigitte and provider for Kot. Option 1 of 3 what's this about a meeting? Option 2 of 3 is something. Option 3 of 3 Franz died? How's little wolf doing? Otto says Franz's heart gave out. Local legend says he was screaming at Kot and he dropped dead. Not that I want anyone to suffer, but few were sad to see that man go. And little wolf, he died a few months after you left. I think Martin still feels guilty about it. Option 1 of 2 what's this about a meeting? Option 2 of 2 Option 1 of 2 what's this Option 1 of 2 what's this about a meeting? Otto says you've picked an interesting time to visit. Come by the town commons in a while. I think you'll be interested to hear what I have to say. Option 1 of 3 I didn't realize you were in the business of giving speeches. I'll definitely attend. Otto says sounds good. Until later, then. Player says the many-petaled cinquefoil. It grows so easily some consider it a weed. Mill. Meadow. Petschlau. Petschlau. Forest.
Hey, achievements.
Player says what a stunning collection of wildflowers. They all grow so plentifully in the meadow. Lower Abbey. Journal. Upper Abbey. Guest house. Meadow. Options.
I'm going
Main
to
quit.
stop here, guys. I'm sorry. I realized it's very early on a fucking Saturday night, and this is very much unlike me. But every day that gets by, I'm a little bit feeling a little bit older, and a little bit more middle aged, and a little bit more tired, and a little bit go to bed earlier, and a little bit, you know, a little bit more like 40. You know, a little bit more like 40. I'm about a year. You know, about half a year from being 40. And yeah, and anyways, I would stick around, but I feel like I'm worthless to you guys. I'm not, you know, the content was good, and I'm gonna come back to it, but I mean, you know, it's, I just beat the first chapter for 100 G, so they're doing pretty good. You know, it's like basically the first playthrough. I bet there's about 4, something like that. So. Anyways, thank you so much for the excellent support for my stream, and you know, I really love you guys. Thank you so much for spending the time that you do and seeing me do what I do. I'll be up a bit more rested tomorrow, and or I'm sorry, yeah, what is it? It's like, yeah, it's like, I'm sorry, it is Friday night, not Saturday night, so that's good. I'm not blowing off my Saturday, which is good. We're gonna play quite a bit of WoW tomorrow, and oh, I missed what why will you not give me control? There we go. I'm gonna control. I'm sorry. So anyways, I'm going to end it. Thank you so much for your time.